Okay, welcome back to Straight Talk, ladies and gentlemen. I was a little bit fumbling around there for a few seconds, but we're back on Tuesday night and every Tuesday night and Saturday nights at 8 o'clock. So tonight we're going to be covering what I was promising last time, but also covering what is really going on with black power, black supremacy, and black superiority. It's on the rise, and it cannot be stopped. It must happen, it will happen, and it is happening. So to be honest with you, the whole shebang about Black Africa and the African diaspora, because you got to realize that Africa begins and ends at the four corners of the world: north, south, east, and west. And this white boy, that I can't call him a man, a real man will defend his honor. A real man will defend his country, his continent. A real man will tell the truth. A real man will be accountable. That's a man. And the only person and or people that fit that description and woman is the black man and woman. The white girl and the white boy, yeah, they gotta sit down. They done built this system to their benefit and they ain't benefit no more. You know why? Because evil will always destroy itself in the end in those who partake in it. Always. ALWAYS and in all ways. ALLWAYS. It has to happen. It must happen. It will happen. It is happening. So, with that being said, we're going to focus in on what this creature has done to the world and is still doing, even to its detriment, knowing that pride always comes before the fall. That they bought into this lie of whiteness to the point of their own destruction. They can't see it coming. The handwriting is on the wall, and their forefathers and mothers wrote their they cannot avoid it, but not being avoided. Being said, I really wanted to focus in on the real deal of what this is all about tonight. The upsurgence, I guess, of the rising of black power. It must happen. It must happen. And the reason being is because the black man and the black woman, we are the very foundation of civilization. Of every civilization known to man was created by black people. Everyone. Because there was nothing but black people on this planet. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no doubt in my mind, and there should be none in yours. So with that being said, let me go on and pull up the share screen and we can get it started. We're going to be here for a few minutes. Hopefully we can get through without a problem, and we'll see how it goes. But keep in mind, always be about the truth. Speak it to power. This is not a joke. This is not a game. The gig is up for the white boy and the white girl. You guys are incompetent to the extreme, not capable of running anything but into the ground. We did this shit once before, twice before, three times. Three strikes you out. Once in Egypt, once in Greece and Rome, and now after Spain. In 1492, the black people, after damn near 1,000 years, were kicked out to Moors. And you got to realize too, let me see that America was established by black people, not white people. The Pilgrims were black people in the beginning, not white people. And that's the reality. And I'm willing to even bet anybody that wants to be on my show, come on, come on, come on, or invite me on your show to let me know that you want to take on a $10,000 bounty or prize. My book is called The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit. What's up, Brother Willie? I really appreciate you being, like always, man. You know how we do. And my book is called The White Man's Burden, 1 and 2. This is this is book 2, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, Understanding White Supremacy and what happened during our time. And this is, if I can find it, I'm pretty sure it's here. This is book 1. And this is, damn it, this is 1. Now, book 1 deals with why do white people hate black people so much? Real talk. Out of the 2 books, you get for $40, like $35 really. Damn near 2,000 pages of historical facts, not fiction, not feelings, not emotion. I don't give a fuck about all that about me, about my feelings and emotions. It's not about that. It's about revealing and speaking truth to power. Because I'm not doing it any other kind of way. And this is why the wannabe PhD ain't coming on my show and having me on their show because I will and I have embarrassed the fuck out of them. I'm not here to play tiddlywinks. I'm not here to get into your feelings and emotions because I don't give a fuck about them. Apágalo ahora en vete en la habitación con tu mamá. Vete. Que tú sabes estoy haciendo esto ahora mismo. Vete. Apágalo. Excuse me about that. You know how these kids are. But vete en la habitación ahora mismo. They can leave me in peace while I'm doing it. But like I said all the time, there's no doubt in my mind that the shift is happening, that the shift is real, that the shift, economic, political, spiritual, and physical power is right here, right now. The black man is on top. We ain't giving it back not one iota of an ounce. We're going to strangle you fuckers, white boy and white girl, to death because that's what you deserve. You are the worst people on the planet, but making it look like everybody else is. The sins of the mother and father are always visited upon their children. Make no bones about it, make no mistake about it, make no nothing about it. It's coming back to you reap what the fuck you sow. And this is the reason why y'all scared than a motherfucker. Payback's a bitch. And I can tell you right now, our ancestors are with us. We're not abandoning them anymore, trying to hope and pray that you change. Fuck you, white boy, because you're not going to change. This same attitude occurred in Egypt, occurred in Greece and Rome, and occurred now. So, I'm not a hateful person. I'm not a vengeful person. Just to be vengeful, just to be hateful, like you all are. But believe me, when brown people tell you, I bet, all we're doing is just biding our time. Because we're going to come back around and you don't stay on top forever, especially when you're doing evil as you white people have done, as you white boys and white girls have done. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. The world is imbalanced. It's called ma'at. It must be held to the highest extreme, to the highest point. That integrity, character, resoluteness, kindness, frugality, all of that is wrapped up within the heart, minds, and souls of black folks. Y'all ain't got it. And therefore, you are losing it and losing your motherfucking mind. What you gained is coming back to black people. You guys are going into the gutter of the gutter of the gutter. It ain't gonna be no it ain't gonna be no reprieve. There ain't gonna be no holiness. There ain't gonna be no I'm sorry, fuck you. We done went down that road, you know what I mean? We done went down that road, went down that road, went down that road. It's young. You know what I mean? There's nothing coming back. So the first video that I want to show is called Man, and this is the white boy in all his glory and what he has done up until this point. It cannot be denied. Let's go. Now, I've shown it, shown about it on my other videos, and I'm just making the point clear. This world cannot keep going in the direction that this white boy and this white girl has it. They're trifling, they're nasty, they're disgusting, and I've seen it, and I've shown this with receipts. Now, you don't have to believe me? Fine. Want to believe that the white man is the most virtuous person on the fucking planet? That's you. But the facts remain. They're having sex with animals in brothels throughout Europe. They're having sex with sex dolls in America now, brothels. They're having sex with each other, knee deep to a gopher add 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or more people, shitting and pissing on each other and drinking and shit and eating the piss and then vomited it back up. This is not no fucking fantasy of mine. This is not no made up shit. This is some real shit. Amongst other things, they stopped eating black people in the 70s, of which they say, but that's not true. They're still eating us because they believe that some kind of way the melanin within our skin and bodies will enrich them. They don't. I mean, it's just a, so I can keep going. I got all the receipts, and all the receipts have been revealed in my previous uh, um, video. Now, what is the case here? The case is really simple. That the world cannot keep going down this road that this white boy has set us upon, enriching himself and depleting the morality of the world, the peace of the world. It's just not going to happen. It's not happening. The world is on a destructive path because he, she, they are destructive. Period. There's no ends. There's no ends. There's no buts. And highly, highly, highly corrupt, morally bankrupt. No, not 1 ounce of integrity. All right. So we're looking at this, and we're going to be looking back at our ancestors. You know what I say? Fuck the KKK, man. This is what our ancestors did. They're a bunch of bitches. They're not strong men. And it is very, very well known that during the Reconstruction period, during the Union versus the South, that black men ran them down. They ran. They cowards. France in World War II, when they were getting their ass whooped by Germany, and it didn't take long. It took about a day before they gave up and said, "Fuck this shit. We're kowtowing to Germany." You know what they did? They got black men to fight in that war, and they never got compensation. It was black men that won the day for France. French men are a bunch of fucking faggots and bitches. Real talk. But look at the history. Every war that white boy been in, they've never won without black men in that motherfucker, without black women in it. The Red Tail, a very great movie. Boxing. They held it for a minute, and then they allowed black men to get to be a part of it. And what happened? We rule everything that they try to do. It never fails. They're not who they say they are. They're not the real Jews. They're not the real Muslims. They're not real nothing but a bunch of bitches whining and moaning and complaining and lying because they cannot fathom the fact that they're not white. They've been lied to. Uh, uh, Blumenbach and Meisner started that fucking lie, and I covered that in my book. They said on their deathbeds that that lie will come back to haunt them. Future generation. This is in the 1600s, late 1500s, 1600s, all the way up to the 1880, when the so-called name of whiteness stuck. It took a long time for them to accept the fact, in their mind, it's the fact that they were white. They're not white. They're just bleached out Negro that come from Dravidian albinos that made it with normal black people. And I talk about that in my book. Our ancestors, they were so odd looking, pale, albinoid, Europoid, Caucasoid, because they don't come from the Caucasus Mountains, that they put them in Central Asia. That's where they come from. Originally from in India, the Dravidian albino, but in the end, we put them in Central Asia, where we were taking pop shots at them, trying to kill them. We should have. That's the, whatever happened. They made a deal with Turkey. When Turkey was an all black thing, but the slavery in Turkey was immense, intense. So they were able to get an education and move forward and become the Grand Poobah, whatever the hell you call the man in charge. And then they made a deal with, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on it. With the Persian, and they broke past not the Persian. I'm sorry, the other group of people. I think it was the Mongols, and they broke past the Persian Wall, the Hadrian Wall, into our Western Holy Roman Empire that pushed um, the Holy Roman Empire, the papacy, into France. So before that, there was no black pope. I mean, there was no white pope. It was only black. And, that led into wars with these people, with our children. The 30 Years' War, 100-Year War, 10-Year War, 1-Year War, 50-Year War. I'm just making up some shit. But it's just how it was. And because of the, I want to almost say globally, and because of the elitist bourgeois of Europe, in particular England, they were able to afford, once again, sell out Negroes to help them to move up. And that was the downfall of our empire throughout Europe. But the main thing was that they were nasty. They didn't take no bath. Now, I done showed this, hold on. I done showed this many, many times where they had fur all over their body, cloth, um, damn it. Uh, and they were attacking our castles with the Black King and Queen on them. Oh shit. Yeah. If I think about it, I'm gonna cut it back, and then talk about it some more. But it's not coming up with me up right now. But they were called oh, not Wolfman. Damn. But you know what I'm talking about. If you've been watching my show, it's just not on my mind right now. But these where they come from. It's the tapestries or tapestry, how you want to say it, are all over Europe, depicting so-called, as we know them to be today, white people, the Tamahus and the Yorubas. They were highly uncivilized. And here's what they would say: "Please, ancestors, I need your guidance." Ooga booga. They're the ones who did that shit, not us. We tried and tried and tried 3 fucking times to civilize these people, and they don't know what the fuck to do because they're uncivilized. We taught them how to bathe. We taught them how to brush their teeth. We taught them how to wash their ass. We taught them how to math, science, agriculture, astronomy, astrology, physics. All of that shit came from black minds. It didn't come from white folks. And fuck, that white boy who supposed to have created a calculator. He didn't do that. It was black people. So as we move forward, I want you to understand what I just shown the man video and the fact that we are on the verge to cusp, really, really past that now. That the world is shifting. If you can't feel it, you gotta feel it. It's here. And it's getting worse for these motherfuckers because now the United States of Africa will be going live on February the 26th, 2026. And now you know who gained liberty? Libya. The 2 sons of Gaddafi alive and present. And woe be unto the ass of France, of America, of Obama, of Hillary, all them motherfuckers. I wouldn't be surprised if they get killed. I really don't. Cause you kill my man, you kill my mother, my father. You know goddamn well. I don't give a fuck how long it takes. I am going to kill you. I will find out some kind of way, some kind of how to kill you. And that's just plain old instinct of a son or daughter. Don't fuck with mine, and I won't fuck with you. See, but white folks ain't got that kind of a mentality. They think they can do what they want to do when they want to do it, how they want to do it. It don't work that way. Sorry, it don't work that way. You must pay the piper, and you must walk through that flame of hate and derision and utter uh, um, disdain that the world has for you motherfuckers. That's not me. That's not me. I'm just saying. But the world in which you fucked around, China with the Opium War, Japan with the two bombs, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and all of the uh, global South, you just done fucked over the whole goddamn world. And like with the man video, you got to pay the price for that, baby. You know what I mean? You got to walk that walk and talk that talk and go through that fire, and you're not going to survive it. Look, the vaccine. 85% of you motherfuckers took that bitch. You ain't going to have no more baby because it's chemically castrating you, killing you, and causing great harm to you. You guys have never been the majority of any motherfucking thing at all. Always the minority, but you profane and act like you are the majority. Okay, you're not. 8 billion people on the planet. Y'all about 7.9. No, the world. Black people like brown people like 7.9. You guys are like 100 million. If that, it might be about 50 million of you motherfuckers left because y'all ain't reproducing. When I wrote my book, the birth rate for white folks to maintain it is 2.1. You guys were around 2.08 and 0.09. Now, after the vaccine, you better believe that shit dropped to about 0.03, 0.04. You ain't gonna make it, baby. You ain't gonna make it. And the sun ain't killing you. The sun is kissing the shit out of our eyes. Loving black folks, kissing the shit out of our skin. And you hate that shit. Oh, Lord, you hate that shit. But it is what it is. We are the black universe filtered down in human form. You worship the ground we walk on. That's not hard to see. Not hard to see. You're just jealous and envious. And that's what is killing you. Because all that hate you got, nothing but causing problems for you. Stroke, heart attack, all that. So, and you're not going to let it go. You're not. So let's move on forward because I don't want to be here for too much longer. But let me cover some things that I found on X. All right. It says, in dealing with the Iceman, you must concede that in matters of power, he is more practical than you are. That's not true either. Because he deals without sentiment. I can go along with what John Henry Clark, our ancestor, was saying. And in the game of power, conscience is absent from the makeup of the European. He's not European either. He's just a bitch ass motherfucker. But I can feel and understand what our master teacher, and he's one of the people that I learned a lot from. But I digress and concede to what he's talking about because I can feel what he's talking about. All right. Now, in this one, Culture and Family Life Lab. What is culture of whiteness? The culture of whiteness is a set of beliefs, practices, and laws that favor the white racial group. Helm 2017, page 718. The culture of whiteness is centuries old, yet lives on. Some of the modern features of the culture of whiteness include racial silence, fragility, and passivity in the face of racial injustice. What is whiteness? Pandemic? Race matters in the United States because racism still exists and young children perceive much more than we usually realize. When parents and other adults are silent around race, it communicates apathy or approval of racism, even if this is the opposite of what adults intend. They don't. They want that to be like it is. That's not true. On the other hand, parents can challenge the culture of whiteness, sending a powerful message to their children. You know what? I think about that quite a bit, and I remember when Muhammad Ali was talking in a video back in late 70s, early 80s. He was saying if you got 1,000 snakes, dangerous, lethal snakes outside your door, and 100 of those, 10%, were good snakes, they're not going to bite you. Would you let them in and just to figure out how And which ones are the good ones? No. You leave them all out the door. See, because white folks, we got to leave them all out the door. It's bad enough, and you're going to see this shit tonight in regard to Traore. Now, I believe in black first. Don't get that excited. Don't get that mixed up. But sometimes skin folks ain't your kin folks. And Tinubu, or whatever the fuck that motherfucking nigga's name in Nigeria, the president, he need to die. He committed treason against the United States of Africa. They're not playing. Traore is not playing. These coon ass niggas that are in on this shit, baby, bye. You just you don't know just yet what the fuck is going on. You don't. A naval warship of NATO was sank by Africa. They have their submarine. They have the naval ship that is beyond belief of what is going on in regard to the technology involved. All right. So now this one, it says black people love to look up to white people for what? And I concur. Like our ancestors didn't create all the sciences and change the world. All white people did was rob and steal everything. We shouldn't look everything. We shouldn't look up to them. They should look up to us, and they do. But they playing they are playing the okie doke game, the Wizard of Oz game, blowing smoke up everybody's ass, hoping that you will still fall for that bullshit. It's over. The game is over. We know what the real deal Holyfield is, and we know we civilized white folk for what we know them to be today, white. And they ain't shit. Never have been. They're just a pile of shit with flies landing on it. And black people are like bees. Very productive, very forward looking, very positive, and being in the integral part of nature. We know the importance of unity. And for a bee to talk to a fly to tell him eating honey is better than eating shit, they'll never understand that. It's not even worth talking anymore to them about that shit. Now, here, France, look. You see the dude right here? This is a dude. His wife is a dude, acting like a woman. They fucking each other in the ass. They do this shit all the time in France, with their pinky up in the air, eating croissant and sipping whatever the fuck they sip. They're a bunch of bitches, man. And this motherfucker, he got the nerve to act like, this, that, and the other. This, that, and the third. Are you fucking kidding me? And now what they did in France in the World War II in the 40s, they're now doing it now. Go get Niger back from me. Because they can't do it. Man, I wish if you go back to some of my videos that I pointed out as to the Black Panthers, you take the CIA, the FBI, the DEA, the NSA, IDF, M16, whatever you call them, there in England. They don't have shit on the Black Panther. I'm talking about you go through that. Excuse me, you go through that training. Excuse me, you go through that training. It's over. And when I tell you they can kill you and leave without a trace, it's like all over those agencies of America, Israel, and Europe, times 1,000. It's over, you guys. It's over. There's no more white boy talking shit and fucking our women with their little dicks. It's over. That's all what that's about, really. And if you look at the Aila Chappelle Treaty that was signed and committed to by these so-called white boys before in the middle to late 1800s, they tell you, or they were telling themselves, hey, look, I look like you look like me, we're both white. If we don't come together and unite, these Moors are going to be standing on our neck and our back forever. That's what happened. They scared you guys. They know that the gig is up, and that they're scared shitless. But there's no turning back now. You understand? There's no turning back. There's no more. There's yes. I'm just gonna say yes and no, sir. You know what I want to say. I ain't gonna say it. But this motherfucking nigga here, believe me, his days are numbered in Nigeria and Ouattara, I think, Cote d'Ivoire. They're done. The people are tired of these scummy ass corner niggas who want to please white women. Man, fuck these motherfuckers. They don't have shit. They bankrupt. France and all of you is bankrupt. America, they can say they're bankrupt, but $38 trillion in debt. Now, from what I know, from what I'm guessing, the wealth of America is over 200 trillion. But that's another time and another day. But $38 trillion, that's a lot of money. In Australia, it's over for these white motherfuckers. You feel me? I give no fucks about them. And we're going to see that tonight in respect to this. So we're going to go forward and we're going to look at this video. No, what I'm going to do, because it's an hour long, I'm not going to be here that long. So we're going to watch a little bit of this so you can get the gist of what it's saying, and I'm going to put that into the comments, or you can watch it later, because I really don't want to be here that long. So there it is. So we're going to watch about half an hour of it, and then I'll be right back, all right? 15 minutes, and then 15 minutes, then a comment, and then 15 minutes for the rest of it. And I'll be right back.
73, and never came home. Their horses returned riderless at dawn, some still saddled, others bearing saddle marks where leather had burned through. The official explanation cited a violent storm, though weather records show clear skies that night. What the sealed report actually documented was something else entirely. A trap so methodical, so coldly executed, that the agent who investigated it 3 months later wrote in his private diary, "I have seen battlefields. I have walked through Andersonville after liberation, but nothing prepared me for the mathematics of vengeance laid out across those burned fields." This is the story of how one man turned a plantation into a killing ground, and why the truth stayed buried until the people who remembered it were all dead. Covington County, Mississippi, in the summer of 1873 was cotton country, though the war had left the soil tired and the economy broken.
We got this really unique project for you guys here today. Client came to us with a huge hole in his backyard.
The population was roughly split. 2,200 white residents, 1,800 black freedmen, and a handful of Chinese laborers working the remaining plantations under contracts that resembled slavery in every way but name. The county seat, Meridian's Cross, sat 7 miles from the Alabama border, connected to the wider world by a single railroad line and roads that became impassable mud from November through March. The Klan chapter there called itself the Pale Riders, and they had established what they termed order through systematic violence that local law enforcement not only tolerated, but joined. Sheriff Thomas Weymouth was a member. So was Judge Horace Pelham, who presided over the circuit court. Reverend Calvin Stroud gave Sunday sermons praising white Christian civilization while wearing the same hands that had held torches Thursday nights. They operated openly because they faced no opposition. The federal troops who'd occupied the county immediately after the war had been withdrawn in 1871, part of the broader abandonment of Reconstruction that left freedmen communities defenseless. The Pale Riders boasted that no black person had ever successfully defied their rules and lived. The rules were simple and enforced with meticulous cruelty. No meetings of more than 5 freedmen without white supervision. No learning to read or write. No testimony against white citizens in court. No ownership of firearms. No walking on the same side of the street as white women. No looking white men directly in the eye. Violation meant punishment calibrated to send messages. First offense, public whipping. Second offense, burning of property. Third offense, disappearance. The system worked because it was predictable. Freedmen who followed the rules could work, earn meager wages, and survive. Those who challenged the order were eliminated with mechanical efficiency, and everyone understood the cost of resistance was death. But systems built on terror contain a fundamental weakness. They require constant demonstration to maintain fear, and eventually someone appears who refuses to demonstrate anything but calculation. June 1873. A woman named Clara Washington, 26 years old, formerly enslaved on the Beaumont plantation, opened a school in the abandoned smokehouse 3 miles outside Meridian's Cross. She had learned to read from a Quaker missionary in Tennessee and returned to Mississippi with 6 primers, a slate board, and a conviction that education was the only path forward. 19 children attended the first day, 23 the second. By the end of the week, Clara was teaching reading to 37 children and 14 adults after dark. The Pale Riders learned of the school within 5 days. They came for Clara on June 17th at 2 o'clock in the morning. 8 riders, white hoods, torches that turned the night orange. They dragged her from the smokehouse while her students scattered into the pine woods. What happened next was documented in enough testimony that the outlines are clear, even if the specific details remained contested for years. Clara Washington was taken to a clearing half a mile into the forest. The riders formed a circle. They demanded she renounce teaching, burn her books, and publicly testify that educating black children was against God's law. She refused. They beat her with fists and boots. She refused again. They hung her from a live oak branch for 30 seconds, then lowered her and repeated the demand. She spat blood and said nothing. At some point, witnesses disagreed on exactly when. One of the riders removed a hunting knife from his belt. Clara wore her hair in 2 long braids that reached her waist. Thick black hair she'd grown since emancipation, since the moment she'd been allowed to wear her hair however she chose rather than cropped short under plantation rules. The rider cut off both braids while she was still alive, sawing through the thick rope of hair while others held her still. Then they killed her.
Hold on.
Manner of death, strangulation. Time elapsed from capture to death, approximately 40 minutes, based on the statements of 2 children who watched from hiding and later testified to federal investigators. The riders left Clara's body hanging from the oak. They took the braids back to Meridian's Cross and nailed them to the door of the Freedmen's Bureau office, the small underfunded federal agency that was supposed to protect black citizens, but had been reduced to a single administrator working out of a converted storeroom. Attached was a note written in careful script. The wages of defiance. No more schools. No more reading. No more patience. The braids stayed on that door for 3 days before anyone dared remove them. Clara's funeral was held at the African Methodist Episcopal Church on June 20th. 60 people attended, though state law limited black gatherings to 15 without white supervision. No one stopped them because the Pale Riders wanted them gathered, wanted them afraid, wanted them to internalize the lesson. This is what happens when you break our rules. During the service, the church's elder, a man named Solomon Reed, who'd been born into slavery 64 years earlier, stood and spoke words that would later be remembered as either prophecy or invitation. "There's a man," Solomon said, his voice steady despite his age. "Union veteran. They call him Captain Jonas. Fought in Tennessee and Georgia. Led impossible missions and brought his men home. Word is he's in Jackson now, helping organize. I heard he doesn't ask for money, doesn't promise victory, just promises he'll come if you call him, and he makes them pay." The congregation sat in silence. Asking for help from a Union soldier meant admitting they couldn't protect themselves. It meant inviting more violence into their community. It meant breaking the fundamental rule of survival in Mississippi. Keep your head down. Don't make trouble. Endure until things might change naturally someday, through some undefined process that never seemed to actually arrive. But Clara's braids were still nailed to a door 3 blocks away. Solomon Reed wrote a letter that night and sent it by railroad to Jackson the next morning. Captain Jonas arrived in Meridian's Cross on July 3, 1873, on the afternoon train from Jackson. He was alone, carried a single leather bag, and wore civilian clothes. Dark wool trousers, a white shirt, a black vest, and a wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his face. No uniform, no weapons visible, no entourage. He was 34 years old, stood 5 feet 11 inches tall, and had a scar that ran from his left temple to his jawline, the kind of scar that comes from a saber that should have killed you, but didn't. His real name wasn't Jonas. That was a name he'd taken after the war, after the thing he'd become during the war made his birth name feel like it belonged to someone who'd died. Military records list him as Captain Elijah Thorne, 10th Regiment, United States Colored Troops, cited for valor at Fort Wagner, promoted to captain after leading a night raid that destroyed a Confederate supply depot and killed 23 soldiers without losing a single man. The raid had been considered suicidal before he executed it. Afterward, it became a template for asymmetric warfare that Union commanders studied. But Jonas didn't talk about his war record. He talked about patience. He met with Solomon Reed and 6 other community leaders in the church basement that evening. No introductions were made beyond first names. No one asked where Jonas came from or where he'd go next. That was how he operated.
Hold on.
Solomon explained the situation. The Pale Riders, their rules, Clara's murder, the certainty that the school's closure was just the beginning of a broader campaign to reassert total control before any federal authority could return. Jonas listened without interrupting. When Solomon finished, Jonas asked a single question. "How many riders?" "Chapter's about 200 strong," Solomon said. "They pull from 3 counties. Not all of them ride every time, but when they want to make a statement, they can gather 200 men in a few hours." Jonas nodded slowly. "And the plantation everyone says is haunted. Where is it?" The question surprised them. Solomon exchanged glances with the others. "Thornwood Plantation, 6 miles north. Been abandoned since '64. Owners fled during Sherman's march and never came back. Freedmen won't go near it. They say it's cursed." "Why cursed?" "Bad things happened there during slavery. Underground punishment cells, breeding programs, overseers who specialized in torture. 70 people died on that property that we know about, probably more. After the owners left, a few squatters tried to settle it. Most left within weeks, said they heard screaming at night. One family stayed, found dead 6 months later. No marks on them, just dead in their beds. After that, everyone avoided it. The building's still standing?" Main house, barn, 6 outbuildings, all empty. Jonas was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that became legend. Let them come. Solomon didn't understand. Come where? To the plantation. Spread word that a black militia is gathering there. Training, organizing, armed. Make it sound like a threat they can't ignore. Make it sound like we're preparing to burn Meridian's cross and kill every white family in the county. Make it sound like the thing they've feared since emancipation. That we'd stop being afraid and start being angry. That'll bring them all down on us. That'll get people killed. Yes, Jonas said. It will. Jonas spent the first week alone at Thornwood Plantation, and what he did there during those 7 days became the foundation of everything that followed. He walked every acre of the property, which covered 340 acres of mixed forest and fields. He studied sightlines, elevation changes, drainage patterns. He identified every structure and its condition. He cataloged resources, abandoned farming equipment, rotting lumber, intact doors and window frames, and old, still barrels of aged turpentine. Most importantly, he mapped the plantation's single access road and confirmed what local knowledge already suggested. Only one way in, through a narrow lane bordered by drainage ditches and dense undergrowth. Anyone approaching would be funneled into a predictable path, and anyone trying to leave in a hurry would face the same choke point. He measured distances and did arithmetic. 200 riders meant 200 horses. Assuming they'd attack as a mass rather than splitting up, they'd need to spread across the property to surround buildings, cut off escape routes, and establish dominance. That meant dispersing across roughly 30 acres of central grounds. Math problem. How do you trap 200 armed men in 30 acres when you're alone? Answer. You don't trap them. You create conditions where they trap themselves. July 10th. Jonas posted a notice at 3 black churches requesting able-bodied men willing to work for wages. No explanation of the work. No promises of safety. Just $2 a day, paid at the end of each day. No questions asked. 17 men showed up at Thornwood the next morning. Jonas set them to digging. Not graves. That would come later and naturally. He had them dig trenches in specific patterns across the plantation grounds. Shallow troughs about 6 inches deep and 2 feet wide, radiating from the main house in irregular lines.
Now, I want to stop it there just to give my comments about this. This white boy is not smart. They look smart, they sound smart, they act smart, but they get all their greatness and smartness from us. The idea of war and the strategy of war come from us. West Point studies war. And what man did they study? Hannibal of Carthage. Sun Tzu, who was black, the creator of the creator of the white boy did a really great book about it. The 48 Laws of Power, the 33 Strategies of War. These were all black thoughts. You cannot sit up here and give these white motherfuckers all the credit. They don't have no credit. Superman, Batman, Thor, all of these great Disney characters, they were black. The Vlad, the vampire, these were black entities in stories from Africa. Let's continue.
It looked random, but followed careful geometry. The men didn't understand the pattern, and Jonas didn't explain. When they finished one section, he had them fill the trenches with hay, then cover the hay with dirt so the trenches disappeared. While they dug, Jonas worked on the main house. He reinforced certain floors and deliberately weakened others, sawing through support beams just enough that weight would collapse them. He removed stairs from the interior, creating drops where people expected passage. He blocked some windows and cleared others, creating obvious escape routes that led nowhere useful. He also built gun pits, small depressions surrounding the plantation, camouflaged with brush, positioned at intervals that allowed overlapping fields of fire. He didn't arm them yet, that would come later, but he built 23 firing positions arranged so that anyone in the plantation center would be within range of at least 3 shooters. The work was methodical, repetitive, and done without conversation. Jonas paid the workers at sunset each day and told them to tell no one what they'd built. Some listened, others didn't. Within a week, rumors circulated through the black community that something was being prepared at Thornwood, something involving trenches and collapsed floors and hidden positions that made no sense until you realized they weren't defensive. They were offensive, a trap for anyone who thought they were the hunters. Death ground. That's what soldiers called terrain where you couldn't retreat, where the only option was forward or dying. Jonas was building death ground for the Pale Riders, and he was using their confidence against them. They'd come expecting frightened freedmen.
Hold on, this is beautiful. They really do a good job.
They'd find geometry. July 16th. Solomon Reed began the next phase, though he didn't think of it as theater. He called a meeting of every black community leader in 3 counties, 57 people total, held at a farm 8 miles from Meridian's Cross. The gathering violated every rule the Klan enforced. It was large, organized, and held without white supervision. It was designed to be noticed. At the meeting, Solomon announced that a defensive militia was forming. Captain Jonas, Union veteran, was training men in combat tactics. They were gathering weapons. They were preparing for armed resistance, and anyone who wanted to join should come to Thornwood Plantation for instruction. Everything Solomon said was technically true, though the details he omitted changed the meaning completely. 3 people at that meeting worked as informants for the Pale Riders, feeding information in exchange for reduced harassment. All 3 reported the militia story immediately. By July 18th, the Klan leadership knew that somewhere between 50 and 100 black men were supposedly gathering at a cursed plantation, armed and organized, led by a Union officer. The story grew with each retelling. Some accounts claimed 200 militiamen. Others mentioned artillery and rifles shipped from the north. A few reports included plans to attack Meridian's Cross and execute every white official in the county. The Klan couldn't ignore it. To do so would be to admit fear of black resistance, would suggest that federal intervention might be coming, would imply that the rules they'd enforced through terror could be challenged. The entire system depended on overwhelming any threat immediately and publicly. 73 Klan members attended an emergency meeting at Reverend Stroud's church on July 19th. They debated how to respond. Some argued for a smaller raid, 20 to 30 men to scout the plantation and assess the threat. Sheriff Weymouth advocated for requesting federal troops to handle what he called an armed insurrection, which would have been the prudent move, but would have also meant admitting the Klan couldn't control the county without help. Judge Pelham suggested an alternative. Gather the entire chapter plus allied riders from neighboring counties, ride in overwhelming force, and crush this militia before it could organize further. We show them, Pelham said, that they can gather 100 men and we'll bring twice that number. We show them that Union veterans and training and weapons don't matter when we outnumber them 2-1. We make this spectacle big enough that it ends any thoughts of resistance for the next 20 years. They voted. Overwhelming force won. Not just the Covington County chapter, but riders from Greene, Kemper, and Wayne counties. A coordinated display of power that would break the freedmen's morale completely. They set the date for August 14th, selected for its symbolic weight. Exactly 1 year since a federal judge in Jackson had ruled against the Klan in a voting rights case that they'd ignored, but still resented. 200 riders, all armed, converging on Thornwood Plantation to annihilate what they believed was a gathering threat, but was actually one man, 17 laborers, and mathematics applied to terrain. Not everyone in the white community supported what was coming, though opposition took forms that were more cowardice than courage. Thomas Markham, a merchant who sold dry goods and owed his business to both white and black customers, heard the Klan's plans through gossip and tried to warn Solomon Reed. He approached Solomon after church on July 27th, pulled him aside, and spoke in urgent whispers. "They're coming for your militia. 200 men. They're planning something massive." Solomon looked at Markham with an expression the merchant couldn't read. "When?" "Mid-August. I don't know the exact date, but soon. You need to cancel whatever you're planning. Scatter. Go north. This can't be won." Solomon said nothing for several seconds, studying Markham's face. Then, "Why are you telling me this?" "Because mass killing is different than keeping order. Because Clara Washington didn't deserve what happened to her. Because I've done nothing to stop this for years, and I need to at least try once." "Then why don't you go to the sheriff? Tell him to stop it." Markham had no answer. He stood there, his warnings delivered, his conscience partially satisfied, and walked away still complicit in everything he'd enabled through years of silence. Solomon watched him go and felt something close to pity. Markham wanted credit for opposition without the cost of actual resistance. What would you do in Markham's position, knowing what was coming, having the influence to possibly stop it, but also having a family, a business, and a community that would destroy you for betraying white solidarity? The question isn't hypothetical. Hundreds of people like Markham existed across the South during Reconstruction. They knew. They did nothing. Then they spent the rest of their lives justifying their silence. Solomon reported the conversation to Jonas that evening. Jonas showed no reaction, just nodded and said, "Good. Means they're committed." But there were other people who knew and did something far worse than nothing. Reverend Stroud not only participated in planning the raid, he gave a sermon on August 10th that blessed it in advance. He stood in his pulpit before a congregation that included Klan members and their families, and he preached from the book of Joshua about divinely sanctioned warfare against enemies of God's chosen people. "If you can't touch your toes, I beg you to try this. You don't need to train hard when evil gathers," Stroud said, his voice carrying to the back pews. "When darkness organizes itself against the light, the righteous must answer with overwhelming force." Joshua didn't negotiate with the Canaanites. He didn't compromise. He destroyed them utterly as the Lord commanded, and we are called to the same righteousness. Women nodded. Children sat quietly, absorbing the lesson that violence in defense of white supremacy was sacred. After the service, Stroud blessed the horses that would carry riders to Thornwood. He prayed over weapons. He told young men that they were soldiers in a holy cause, and whatever they did on August 14th would be justified by the righteousness of their community's survival. The church was complicit. The sheriff was complicit. The judge was complicit. The merchants who sold supplies and asked no questions were complicit. The wives who packed food for their husbands' night rides were complicit. The entire architecture of white Mississippi society was built to enable and justify exactly this kind of violence. Jonas understood this. He wasn't fighting just 200 men. He was fighting the system that produced them, equipped them, blessed them, and would cover for them afterward. The only way to break such a system was to make the cost so high that protection became impossible. August 1st through 13th. Final preparations. Jonas worked 16-hour days, sleeping only when exhaustion forced him. The 17 laborers he'd hired were joined by 11 more volunteers, men who understood something terrible was coming and wanted to be part of whatever response Jonas was building, even if they didn't fully understand what that response would be. Jonas gave them specific tasks and nothing more. 6 men spent 5 days hauling barrels of turpentine from an abandoned still 3 miles away. They positioned the barrels at intervals along the hay-filled trenches Jonas had dug weeks earlier. Other men collected fallen branches and arranged them in patterns around the plantation buildings, dry tinder that looked natural but was actually fuel. Jonas himself worked on the gun pits, bringing in rifles salvaged from the war. 23 pits, each with 2 rifles positioned to fire from concealment. Not new weapons, old Springfields and Enfields, battle-worn but functional. He'd acquired them through contacts Solomon had helped establish, purchasing the rifles from freedmen who'd kept them hidden since mustering out of Union service. Each gun was loaded, capped, and ready. He also built false positions, empty trenches that looked like they should hold shooters, but didn't. Decoy campfires laid with wood, but never lit. Bootprints leading to abandoned structures. Everything designed to make attacking forces waste time and ammunition on empty threats, while real threats remained hidden. The main house received special attention. Jonas removed all furniture and created a maze of reinforced corners, where someone could take cover and fire through windows with overlapping fields. He blocked the main staircase and created rope descents from second-floor windows. Anyone who entered the building expecting to find cowering militia members would instead find architectural violence, floors that gave way under weight, doorways that led to 12-foot drops, windows positioned so anyone silhouetted in them would be visible to shooters outside. On August the 12th, Jonas called all 28 workers together and explained what would happen. Not what they hoped would happen. What would happen? They're coming in 2 days. 200 armed men who think they're going to slaughter a defenseless militia and burn this place to the ground. Instead, they're riding into a trap designed to kill as many of them as possible with minimal risk to us. He showed them the map he'd drawn, explained the fire trenches, the gun pits, the false positions, the exit strategy that would let workers evacuate before the riders arrived. Then he said something that separated him from every other Union veteran who'd tried to protect freedmen communities in Mississippi.
Now, I know I said I'm going to let it go happen. This is good. I know y'all like, no, let it go. I'm going to let it go. If it takes 3 hours to do this show tonight, which I would normally do about maybe 3.5, 4 hours, I'm going to let it go because I know you guys want to watch this.
I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but there's this transcription app, TurboScribe. It's super easy. You just drag.
I'm not here to defend you. I'm here to make them afraid. When this is over, the Pale Riders won't exist. But that means every man who rides onto this property is going to die, or wish he had. That means we're not capturing prisoners or showing mercy or accepting surrender. That means you need to decide right now if you can live with what we're about to do. 16 men stayed.
Kill.
12 left. The 16 who remained spent the final day checking positions, memorizing evacuation routes, and waiting for mathematics to play out in flesh and fire. August 13th, 1870.
You know, I hate that. Hold on.
Sunset over Thornwood Plantation painted the sky rust and gold, colors that would look different in retrospect. Jonas walked the property alone one final time, not checking preparations, but saying goodbye to whoever he'd been before the war and whoever he'd become during it. Tomorrow would finalize the transformation. In Meridian's Cross, the Pale Riders gathered. They came from 4 counties, converging at Reverend Stroud's church throughout the afternoon and evening. By 8 o'clock, 194 men had assembled, slightly fewer than the full 200 anticipated, but more than enough. They wore their robes and hoods, not to conceal identity. Everyone in the county knew who they were, but to perform righteousness through uniformity. White fabric transformed them from individual men with names and families into an instrument of collective will. Sheriff Weymouth addressed them in the churchyard, standing on a wagon bed so everyone could see him. His speech was preserved in testimony later given to federal investigators by one of the few riders who survived. We ride at midnight. We reach Thornwood by 1 o'clock. We surround the property on all sides so nothing escapes. Then we burn every structure with anyone inside. We hang the leaders. We make this so complete, so terrible, that no black person in Mississippi ever thinks about organized resistance again. You are soldiers in a just cause. You are protecting your families, your homes, your way of life. God is with us tonight. The riders checked weapons. They formed into groups of 20 for easier coordination. They mounted horses. At 11:45, they departed Meridian's Cross in a column that stretched nearly a quarter mile. Torches lit, rifles loaded. Some men sang hymns. Others rode in silence, contemplating the violence they'd commit and justifying it with every step. At Thornwood Plantation, Jonas waited with his 16 volunteers positioned in gun pits around the perimeter. They had no torches, no lights. They'd eaten cold food at sunset and hadn't spoken for hours. Jonas had given final instructions at dusk. No one fires until the riders are fully committed inside the kill zone. No one retreats until the signal. No one hesitates when the moment comes. Midnight passed. The air was thick and still, humidity that made every sound carry. 1 o'clock. Hoofbeats in the distance. The Pale Riders arrived at Thornwood Plantation at 12 minutes past 1 o'clock in the morning, August 14th. They came expecting glory. They found geometry. The riders approached carefully, which was their first mistake. Careful meant slow. Slow meant time to spread out. Spreading out meant dispersing into the exact pattern Jonas had designed the terrain to encourage. Sheriff Weymouth ordered his men to surround the property, cutting off all escape routes before they charged the main house. Standard tactics, reasonable caution. But surrounding a 340-acre plantation with 194 riders meant spreading thin, each man responsible for covering roughly 40 yards of perimeter, too far apart to support each other, near enough to feel like they were still a coordinated force. They positioned themselves along the tree line, watching the dark buildings, seeing nothing that contradicted their expectations. An abandoned plantation, a few dim lights in windows, oil lamps burning low. No movement, no guards, no evidence of the massive militia they'd been warned about. Weymouth sent scouts forward, 5 men dismounted and crept toward the main house, rifles raised, moving from cover to cover. They reached the front porch without incident, checked windows, saw nothing. One called back, "It's empty, nothing here." The confusion rippled through the ranks. Had the militia fled? Had the intelligence been wrong? Were they preparing an ambush from the woods beyond the plantation? Weymouth decided to take the main house to establish a command position, then sweep the outbuildings. He ordered 40 men to dismount and enter the house while the rest maintained the perimeter. The 40 men crossed the open ground between tree line and house. Their torches lit them from below, making their shadows dance huge and distorted on the walls. They reached the porch. They entered through the main door and 3 ground floor windows. They spread through the first floor, calling clear as they searched each room.
Hold on.
That's when Jonas, positioned in a gun pit 100 yards northwest of the house, fired the first shot. Not at the riders.
Hold on.
Welcome. Another really cool space. I can't wait to show you guys.
At a barrel of turpentine he'd positioned near the hay-filled trenches. The bullet punched through the wood, and for a heartbeat nothing happened. Then flame found fuel. The trenches ignited in sequence, fire racing, along underground channels filled with hay and turpentine, spreading faster than horses could run, creating lines of flame that divided the plantation into sections. Riders who'd been spread along the perimeter suddenly found themselves separated from each other by walls of fire 8 feet. The flames illuminated everything, turning night into flickering orange day, destroying the cover of darkness the clan had relied on. Inside the main house, the 40 men heard gunfire and shouting. They rushed toward windows to see what was happening. Jonas had positioned the gun pits specifically for this moment. 16 shooters opened fire simultaneously, targeting anyone silhouetted in windows or visible in doorways. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness between flame lines. Men dropped, hit by bullets before they understood they were under attack. The riders outside the house panicked. Some tried to reach their comrades inside. Others fired blindly toward where they thought they'd seen muzzle flashes. A few turned their horses to flee and discovered the access road was now blocked by fire, the flames having raced down the trenches Jonas had built along the only exit. They were trapped. All 194 separated into groups by fire barriers, unable to coordinate, unable to see who was shooting at them, unable to retreat. Jonas had spent 3 weeks building this moment. It took 6 minutes to spring the trap. It would take 3 hours to resolve. The men inside the main house tried to evacuate, which was their second mistake. They rushed for doors and windows, clustering at exit points, creating targets. Jonas's shooters focused fire on these positions, not firing rapidly, but taking aimed shots at anyone who tried to leave. 3 men made it out the front door before bullets forced the others back inside. 5 tried to jump from second-floor windows and fell through weakened floorboards into the cellar instead, breaking legs and ankles in 12-foot drops. The house became a cage. The 40 men inside were now pinned, taking fire from multiple directions whenever they exposed themselves. Some tried to return fire, shooting from windows at gun pits they couldn't see clearly. Wasted ammunition. Jonas's positions were too well concealed, protected by earthworks and brush, firing from darkness into light. Outside, The remaining 154 riders were divided into 5 groups by the fire barriers. Each group tried to organize a response, but organization required communication, and communication required crossing flame lines or shouting over gunfire.
Cógelo con papel de baño. ¿Ah? No importa, cógelo.
Riders dismounted and tried to fight. Others stayed mounted,
Cógelo.
horses panicking from fire and noise. A few tried to jump their horses over the trenches, but the flames were too high and too wide. 2 horses attempted the jump. Both stumbled, throwing their riders into the fire. Jonas had positioned his shooters to create crossfire zones. Any rider trying to move between cover would be visible to at least 2 gun pits. Any group trying to mass for a coordinated charge would bunch together, creating better targets. The plantation's layout funneled all movement into predictable paths, and every path was covered by rifles loaded and ready. From Federal Investigators' Report, October 1873. The tactical sophistication displayed suggests formal military training and extensive planning. The attacking force was numerically superior.
Now I'm gonna stop it there and make my last comment about this video. Because you gotta be able to understand that white folk don't think. They think they can, that niggas are dumb. That's what they think. That we're dumb. That they can do whatever the fuck they want to do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it. And that's not true. Look at Traoré. Look at all the great generals and men and women of our ancestors into the present day. They can't deal with us. They know this. This is why they try to blow smoke up our asses. So read your history. Read the white man's history or the white boy's history. What you should be studying, and stay a good nigga. See, at some point, we gotta wake up and realize these bitches and bastards ain't shit. Never have been, never will be. Always faking and lying and scheming. This is what they do. Now let's finish this and I'll be right back.
Superior, but strategically outmaneuvered from the moment they entered the property. Subsequent examination of the terrain revealed a kill zone designed with geometric precision. The shooting continued for 42 minutes. Not constant fire, ammunition was limited, and Jonas had ordered his shooters to fire only when they had clear targets. But 42 minutes of sporadic gunfire in darkness lit by burning trenches. 42 minutes of horses screaming and men shouting and bullets hitting flesh and wood and bone. The clan riders had expected to be the aggressors. Instead, they were targets. Some riders broke. Individual men or small groups decided survival meant fleeing, regardless of the fire barrier. They rode their horses directly into the flames, hoping speed would carry them through. Some made it, emerging on the other side with burns but alive. Others didn't. Horses refused at the last second, throwing riders into fire. Or horses jumped and came down wrong, shattering legs, trapping riders beneath thrashing weight. By 2 o'clock in the morning, the pale riders had lost tactical cohesion completely. They were no longer an organized force, but clusters of frightened men trying to stay alive.
Bitches.
That's when Jonas moved to the next phase. Jonas left his gun pit and moved through the darkness beyond the fire zones, circling to the rear of the plantation where riders were trying to regroup. He wasn't alone. 4 of his volunteers accompanied him, men who'd lost family to the clan, men who'd watched friends disappear, men who'd swallowed rage for years and now had permission to spit it back. They moved quietly through the woods, avoiding firelight, approaching the riders from directions they weren't watching. Jonas had explained this part carefully, Target the leaders first, the ones giving orders, the ones keeping their men from complete collapse.
Hold on.
Remove command, and the rest falls apart faster. Sheriff Weymouth was trying to organize a withdrawal from the northeast corner of the plantation, gathering riders and forming them into a column that could charge through the flames together. He'd gotten maybe 30 men assembled when Jonas emerged from the tree line behind them. No warning, no challenge, just rifle fire that dropped Weymouth from his horse and scattered the men who'd been forming on him. The riders fired back, but Jonas and his volunteers were already gone, melted back into darkness. That was the horror of it. The clan couldn't see their enemies, couldn't predict where the next attack would come from, couldn't establish a defensive position because the entire plantation was hostile terrain. 15 minutes later, on the southwest corner, Jonas found Judge Pelham directing 6 riders to make a coordinated charge at one of the gun pits, trying to silence it through direct assault. Jonas waited until they were committed, mid-charge, before firing from their flank. 2 riders went down.
Deep in the forests of Lower Silesia, hidden among the ruins of a forgotten Nazi research site.
The others broke off the assault and scattered. This wasn't warfare. It was hunting. By 2:30 in the morning, the fire trenches were burning lower, fuel consumed, but the damage was done. The plantation grounds were divided. Visibility was chaos, and the clan's numerical advantage had been neutralized by terrain and tactics. Jonas continued moving through the darkness, appearing where riders least expected, firing, disappearing, reappearing elsewhere, always alone or with just 2 or 3 volunteers, always from unexpected angles. The 40 men trapped inside the main house attempted a mass breakout at 2:45. They charged out the front door together, betting that overwhelming one exit would let most of them escape. Jonas had anticipated this. He'd positioned 3 shooters specifically to cover the front entrance with overlapping fire. The first 5 men through the door were shot. The next wave stumbled over bodies. The charge collapsed back inside the house. Then Jonas did something that marked him as different from any other Union veteran operating in the South. He set fire to the main house. He'd positioned barrels of turpentine at the building's base during his preparation. Now he shot those barrels from cover, and flame climbed the wooden walls within seconds. The men inside had a choice: burn or run the gunfire. Most chose to run. They came out windows and doors, some on fire, all panicked. Jonas's shooters fired into the mass. Some riders made it to cover. Others didn't. The house became an inferno, flames leaping 50 feet into the air, lighting the entire plantation like noon. This is the part that made the federal report unpublishable. Not the tactics, not the ambush, not even the kill count, which was horrifying enough. What made the report too disturbing for public release was what happened after the house burned. By 3:30 in the morning, the tactical portion of the engagement was over. The surviving clan riders had either fled through the flames or were pinned in positions with no ability to fight back effectively. Jonas could have let them leave, could have declared victory and withdrawn, but he didn't. He hunted them. For the next 2 hours, Jonas and his volunteers systematically moved through the plantation, finding riders who'd hidden in outbuildings or behind cover, forcing them into the open, shooting them or capturing them. Not all of them. Some escaped into the woods beyond the plantation boundaries, fleeing wounded and terrified. but Jonas found 37 men who thought they'd successfully hidden and were waiting for dawn to run. He made them watch, made them see what their chapter had become, dragged them to the center of the grounds, and forced them to sit in the firelight and look at the bodies scattered across the plantation. Then he told them something that survivors repeated in testimony years later. You came here to kill people who wanted to read. You came here believing you were righteous. You came here thinking black people would always be afraid. You were wrong about everything. Now go home and explain that you rode out with 200 men and came back with less than half. Then he let them go. 37 Klan riders, alive but broken, sent walking down the access road at dawn without horses or weapons, carrying the message back to Covington County that the Pale Riders had been destroyed in a single night. Dawn broke over Thornwood Plantation at 6:23 in the morning, August 14, 1873. The fire trenches had burned out. The main house was a collapsed skeleton of charred timbers. Bodies lay across the grounds in patterns that made clear this hadn't been a battle but an execution designed to look like one. 106 dead, by the investigators' later count, though exact numbers remained disputed because some bodies were never found. Jonas and his volunteers left before full light. They buried the rifles in locations marked only in memory, scattered the gun pit positions to make them look natural, and walked away separately. Jonas himself disappeared into the network of freedmen communities that stretched across the South, moving from town to town, never staying long enough to be documented, always available if called, but never seeking credit or recognition. The 16 men who'd fought with him returned to their lives. They told no one what they'd done. When asked about the night at Thornwood, they said they'd been elsewhere, and neighbors who knew the truth backed up the lie. Collective silence, the same tool the Klan had used, now deployed against them. Sheriff Weymouth's body was found 3 days after the incident by federal investigators who arrived from Jackson on August 17th. Judge Pelham survived, though he'd been shot in the leg and burned badly. Reverend Stroud fled Mississippi entirely and ended up in Arkansas, where he preached under a different name until someone recognized him and ran him out of that state too. The surviving Klan members who made it home told fractured stories that contradicted each other in details, but agreed on fundamentals. They'd ridden to Thornwood expecting a militia and found a slaughterhouse. When pressed by federal agents on who'd organized the defense, they gave descriptions that didn't match any known person. A Union soldier, maybe 30, maybe 40, scar on his face, moved like smoke. No name, no regiment, nothing that could be traced. The official explanation that emerged from the chaos satisfied no one, but couldn't be disproven. The Meridian's Cross Dispatch, the county's only newspaper, published this on August 20th. Tragic storm claims local riders. A sudden and violent thunderstorm struck the abandoned Thornwood plantation on the night of August 14th, catching a group of men sheltering from the weather. Lightning started fires. Structural collapses trapped victims. Estimated losses exceed 100 souls. County mourns its citizens. Never mind that weather records showed clear skies. Never mind that dozens of survivors told different stories. Never mind the bullet wounds federal investigators documented. The storm explanation gave the white community a way to avoid admitting what had actually happened, that the Klan had been systematically destroyed by organized black resistance. The freedmen communities didn't need official explanations. They knew what had happened, passed the story through networks the white community never accessed. A Union veteran had come when called. He'd built a trap. He'd killed more than 100 Klan members in a single night. The details grew in retelling, became legend, became myth. Some versions claimed Jonas had supernatural powers. Others said he'd had 100 fighters, not 16. A few said the plantation itself had fought alongside him, that the curse on Thornwood had awakened and chosen sides. Federal investigator Martin Kessel arrived from Washington on September 3rd, tasked with documenting what had really occurred and determining whether charges should be filed.
Bored of the usual scroll, work, local spots, even other social platforms not cutting.
He spent 6 weeks in Covington County, interviewing survivors, examining the plantation ruins, collecting testimony. His report ran to 347 pages, including sketches of the trap system Jonas had built and calculations of how 16 men with prepared positions could defeat a force of 200. The report concluded with a recommendation that astonished his superiors. No charges should be filed. The men who died at Thornwood had been engaged in what Kessel termed organized terrorism against United States citizens, and their deaths represented justifiable defense of life and property. He further recommended that the Pale Riders be designated a criminal organization, and all surviving members be arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. Neither recommendation was implemented. Instead, Kessel's report was classified, sealed, and buried in files that wouldn't be opened for 43 years. The Department of Justice determined that prosecuting the Klan would inflame racial tensions, that pursuing Jonas would make him a martyr, and that the best resolution was to let the incident fade into contested memory where no one's version could be definitively proven. Which is how 106 deaths became a storm, and justice became classified. Thornwood Plantation was never rebuilt. The ruins remained visible for decades, slowly consumed by vegetation and weather, until nothing stood but foundation stones and twisted metal from the burned house. The property reverted to the county for unpaid taxes in 1886 and was eventually parceled into farmland, though the central section, where the main house had stood, was never cultivated. Farmers avoided it, said the soil was cursed, that nothing would grow right, that equipment broke in that section for no reason. Clara Washington School reopened in September 1873, 2 months after she was murdered. Solomon Reed and 3 other community leaders pooled resources to hire a new teacher, a woman from Ohio named Margaret Hastings, who'd come south specifically because she'd heard about Clara. 40 students enrolled the first week. The school operated for 16 years before Mississippi's segregation laws forced it to close. But in those 16 years, more than 300 freedmen learned to read and write. The Pale Riders never reorganized. A few Klan chapters formed in neighboring counties during the 1880s and 90s, but Covington County remained quiet. The terror infrastructure that had existed before August 14th, the open meetings, the blessing from church leadership, the collaboration between Klan and law enforcement, never reconstituted. Partly because so many leaders had died at Thornwood, partly because the survivors were afraid. Fear. That was what Jonas had accomplished. He'd taken the weapon the Klan used and turned it back on them. For years, the Pale Riders had maintained power through the certainty that resistance would be crushed. Jonas demonstrated the opposite, that overwhelming force could be defeated by intelligence and preparation, that terror wasn't invincible, that the people deemed powerless could become deadly given time and motivation. But Jonas himself vanished. No military records document his life after 1873. No census lists him. No grave bears his name, at least not under Jonas or Elijah Thorne. Some historians believe he continued working with freedmen communities throughout the South, appearing when called, never staying. Others think he died anonymously within a few years, worn down by war and what he'd become during it. A few suggest he went west, disappearing into territories where questions about the past went unasked. What is known is that his name became a weapon in itself. For decades, when Klan chapters threatened black communities, someone would mention Jonas. Heard there's a Union veteran coming, captain from the war. They say he specializes in impossible situations. Sometimes it was true. Usually it was just the threat, just the memory of Thornwood, just the reminder that the men who seemed untouchable had once been touched. Martin Kessel, the federal investigator, kept his personal diary separate from his official report. In it, he wrote his unfiltered thoughts about what he documented at Thornwood. The diary was donated to the National Archives in 1942 by his grandson, and one entry stands out. October 21st, 1873. I understand now why the Klan members I interviewed seemed more traumatized than the freedmen who fought them. The Klan believed themselves to be apex predators. Jonas showed them they were prey. You can recover from physical wounds. You cannot recover from the revelation that everything you believed about power and hierarchy was a lie. The men who survived Thornwood will live with that knowledge until they die, and it will poison every moment. The file labeled "Too Disturbing for Publication" was unsealed in 1916 when Congress investigated Reconstruction-era violence for a proposed civil rights bill that ultimately failed. A historian named Eleanor Brash read Kessel's report in 1958 while researching racial terrorism and called it the most thorough documentation of strategic resistance to white supremacist violence in the historical record. The report was finally made public in 1973, exactly 100 years after the incident, as part of broader declassification of Reconstruction documents. By then, everyone involved was long dead. Survivors of the Pale Riders, freedmen who'd fought at Thornwood, federal investigators who documented it, all gone. What remained was the story, contested and complicated. A reminder that justice in 1873 Mississippi came not from courts or federal troops, but from a Union veteran who understood that systems built on terror could be unmade by terror strategically applied. Thornwood Plantation's ruins are accessible today, though they're overgrown and unmarked. Local historians estimate that between 20 and 50 people visit annually, mostly researchers or descendants of freedmen who lived in Covington County during Reconstruction. The land where the main house stood is still avoided by farmers, though soil tests show nothing unusual. Some things persist beyond chemistry, and on certain August nights, people living near the old plantation claim they hear sounds that might be wind through ruins or might be something else. Hoofbeats, men shouting, the sharp crack of rifles firing in darkness. Probably just wind. Subscribe if you want the next deep dive.
All right, I'm happy to have done that. So let me expound on that a little bit. The only thing you need to fear is fear yourself. Ain't shit about a white motherfucker that makes you want to just drop everything, every weapon, everything. They are playing the Wizard of Oz game. How many times I gotta tell y'all about this? We have all the spades in our hand. They don't have not one, but they made us think that we don't have any spades in our hand. We have them all. Slowly but surely, Black Africa, Black America, the Black world diaspora, they're going to wake up truly to this fact that you've been plumb, dumb, and dumb. Listening to these motherfuckers saying everything that they want to say. Superman, Batman, vampires a lot. All of these so-called white superheroes of Disney, they were all black in the beginning. That come from mythical stories of Africa and the diaspora. They stealing that shit, turning it around, making money, making billions of dollars, like Star Wars. And you don't have a fucking clue as to what the hell is going on. What white boy is good at is lying. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's about high time we took accountability for ourselves and our non-action and start to really look at the power within. Because if you can defeat the enemy within, everything else falls apart. If you kill your enemy, you'll never have to worry about your friends. Traore is a hell of a leader, man. He's not looking at your skin color motherfuckers. Tinubu, Nigeria, bitches. And the Cote d'Ivoire, I guess they Ouattara. Fuck these niggas, man. They're cooning for white boy, better known as Macron. White, look, this past Saturday, I was telling you that Aramco, Orion, some gold producing company that was there no more. Do you know, for hundreds, if not thousands of years, the ecological damage that was done to the land, and people don't know about it, they just drinking and dying and getting cancer. The white boy don't give a fuck. The white boy don't give a fuck about you niggas. The white girl don't give a fuck. The white girl don't give a fuck about you niggas. All they care about is what they can get. Period. As a matter of fact, in this month, I think it was on the 15th, and I'm going to look for it on X, because I know I saved it. White folks are trying to, and they have been, infecting us with AIDS. They're not our friends. I don't give a fuck how nice a motherfucker is. They're just a ploy to get your sentiment out of whack. I hate these motherfuckers. Like this sister who put that shit on X. Not hate out of hate sake, out of a righteous anger and the hate for iniquity. White people love iniquity. They have a reprobated mindset. I hate people like that. I don't give a fuck if you're black or yellow or green. But we're dealing in the reality. White folks, as we know them to be, they're the most vicious motherfuckers on the planet, as I had demonstrated in the man video. The white boy had gone all around the world fucking shit up. Do you know how many times they bombed the atolls out there in the Pacific where black folks used to live? Not one time, not 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 times. 63 times. To the point where the black people in that area, they couldn't live there anymore because their food supply, the ocean, with the fish in it, was no more. The United States government started sending cans over. That's not their fucking diet. They were dying from malnutrition and all that. And they had to come to the mainland. Who the fuck are you, boy? Now they got it where the point. They want you, and it's hundreds of millions of pounds of meat that is not real meat. It's 3D printed meat. Hold on. Instead of talking about it, hold on. Hold on. 3D printed meat in Europe. Right here. I'm going to play it. Which one I want to play? So they got meat, they got fish, they got chicken. Yeah, I'm gonna play this one.
Soon, the entire world will start eating meat
No,
printed by
no,
a
we won't.
printer, and we won't even be able to tell if it's real meat or not. This isn't a plot from Black Mirror, it's our reality unfolding. Here's why printed meat resembles real meat so closely. The 3D printers use special bio-inks to create it. These bio-inks are actually made from stem cells extracted from different animals depending on the desired type of meat: beef, pork, poultry, or even fish. In a laboratory, these cells then multiply, interact, and differentiate into the fat and muscle cells that make up bioink. These bioinks are then intricately layered by specialized 3D printers to construct meat products that closely mimic the texture, taste, and nutritional composition of traditional meats. This is identical to real beef, and when it is ready and served, even the smell is the same. Scientists claim that by using this technology, the environmental impact associated with conventional livestock farming will be greatly reduced. So would you eat printed meat? Soon, the entire world will start eating meat printed by...
Are you getting what I'm saying? I mean, seriously. This white motherfucker actually believes that the whole world just gonna stop eating real chickens, real ducks, real cows, and all this shit, and just start eating what they fucking produce. You don't know what the fuck is in that bitch. They're killing you. We have seen this time and time and again. With the syphilis thing, the Tuskegee Institute syphilis exam, or whatever the fuck you call it. This is an ongoing threat. You are at war, motherfucker. Wake your ass up. Political, economic, spiritual, and physical warfare is being done on your motherfucking black asses around the globe. Africa begins and ends at the four corners. They're not going to stop until we stop them, until we fucking kill them. This is treasonous action of these motherfuckers against people of the dominant race and or class on the planet. I don't know what to tell you. I'm presenting the facts. I don't give a fuck about my feelings or emotions. I'm not about that. I'm bringing the facts and putting them on the table. If you don't want to believe that, that's on you. But the facts remain. These motherfuckers are a threat to humanity. They want to be in a position where they can keep raping kids, sodomizing kids, orally and vaginally and anally. These motherfuckers are sick. You don't think that Macron is a faggot? Of course he is. And he's been brought up to accept it like it's just a matter of fact. Or grooming? That bitch ass motherfucking man he called a wife groomed his ass when he was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's about 8 on up. These motherfuckers are crazy, man. This is not no fucking joke. I don't come on this motherfucker bullshitting. If you believe I'm bullshitting, come on my show. I'll give you $10,000. You can believe it. If you can prove it that I'm wrong. $10,000. If you lose, you give me $1,000. I'm just saying. So the next video, we're going to go on to that. This is 23 minutes. We're going to do 12 and 12. 12, no, I'm sorry. We're going to do 13 and then 10. I'll be right back.
The constant threat of death. Black soldiers returned home believing they had earned something more. Respect, dignity, a chance at real freedom. But America greeted them with something else entirely. Bullets, burning neighborhoods, mobs waiting at train stations, ready to erase them before their uniforms even touched the ground. This is the story of the black veterans America tried to destroy in the summer that changed everything. This is Daesh Unite, where the story continues together.
Now, remember, we got a very serious case against the U.S. government. The U.S. government is on this shit. It's behind this shit. Bomb? Wait. The United States bombed its own citizens? Are you fucking kidding me? That's a slam dunk win case. No doubt about that shit. Pay the fuck up. You're talking about at least $150 trillion? Bitch? Are you fucking joking me? But you know what? Troy got it where what country was that? It wasn't France, as a matter of fact. But it's some European country where they agreed to pay $4 trillion. The reason why, you know why they fucking agreed to pay? Because we're forcing their hand to pay. Not asking politely, oh, can you, if you have a good heart and you believe in Jesus, man, fuck you and your goddamn Jesus, bitch. They got the gun to their fucking head. Economic gun, political gun, spiritual gun, and physical gun. You either pay up or your brain will be on that motherfucking piece of paper. Keep your friend close, but your enemy closer. And that's the reason why they're going to be paying us the money. That's the reason why the white boy is going to be, how they call it, how they say it, dispossessed. It's on and popping right now, baby. I'm here to tell you. It's no joke. Let's go.
1919 was a nation on edge, a country trembling under the weight of everything we refused to confront. The Great War had ended, and millions of soldiers were returning home at once. Jobs were scarce, wages were low, the economy was cracking under pressure, and in factory towns across America, white workers saw black laborers not as neighbors, but as competition. During the war, many black men had been hired as low-wage strike beaters. Now, resentment simmered like gasoline waiting for a spark. Then came the Red Scar, a nationwide panic that whispered that socialism, Bolshevism, and radicalism were infecting American cities. Newspapers and politicians pointed fingers at black communities, claiming without proof that black workers were being manipulated by communist agitators. Fear became propaganda, propaganda became hate, and hate always finds a target. At the same time, America was changing. The Great Migration had already begun reshaping the nation's cities. Nearly 500,000 black Southerners fled Jim Crow terror and headed north during the 1910s, searching for jobs and dignity denied to them in the South. Chicago's black population exploded by 148%, Philadelphia's by nearly 500%, and with every train arrival, some white residents grew more anxious, convinced that black migrants threatened their jobs, housing, and a place in society. But nothing frightened white supremacists more than the return of black World War I veterans. Roughly 380,000 black men had served in the war. They had fought in trenches, survived gas attacks, and shed blood in French fields for a country that still labeled them second-class citizens. Yet something changed inside them overseas. They were respected, saluted, treated as men. They returned home with discipline, pride, and a new understanding of their worth. Leaders like W.E.B. Du Bois told them plainly, "We return fighting, not with hatred, but with courage, dignity, and determination to challenge the brutality they had endured for generations." White America heard those words and felt threatened. A black man in uniform, confident, trained, and unwilling to bow, represented everything Jim Crow feared. So mobs targeted them. At least 13 black veterans were lynched after the war. Some were murdered while still wearing their uniforms. One of them was Wilbur Little, who survived Europe. Only to be beaten to death in Georgia for refusing to remove the uniform he had earned with his life. Lynching spiked to 83 in a single year. The Ku Klux Klan swelled into the millions. The federal agents warned that black soldiers were no longer fighting back to their old place, as if that were ever their place to begin. Pressure built, tension sharpened. America became a nation standing knee-deep in dry grass. All it needed was a match. And in 1919, the match was struck again and again, from spring to early autumn. At least 25 major riots and mob attacks erupted across the country. NAACP leader James Weldon Johnson named it Red Summer for all the blood that flowed. Hundreds died, thousands were injured, entire communities were burned to ashes, and through it all, black veterans stood at the center, refusing to back down, even when the whole nation seemed determined to crush them. Charleston, South Carolina, May 10, 1919. The spark was small, just a rumor, but in 1919 a rumor was enough to set a city on fire. Word spread that a black man had shot a white sailor at a local pool hall. Within hours, white Navy sailors and local whites poured into the streets, arming themselves by raiding a shooting gallery. Then the mob turned on the black community. They beat black people at random. They smashed black businesses. They hunted anyone who looked black, no questions asked. Some black residents, including veterans, fired back in self-defense as the violence spread. The city police were helpless. Marines from the nearby Navy Yard eventually deployed to regain control. detaining white sailors and disarming some black residents. By dawn, 3 black men were dead and at least 17 wounded and multiple sailors injured. Charleston's mayor promised compensation and even formed an interracial committee, but refused to hire black police officers. Charleston was the nation's warning, a preview of what fear and hatred of black veterans would unleash across America.
Now, one thing about that is that in Charleston, South Carolina, I think that is the state and the city, that it was a coup against the government. The black folk were running the shit, and white folk. It might have been another city, but the story is still the same. Black people were running it, but white folk couldn't stand that shit, and they committed a coup against the government, which is treasonous in itself, and took all of the wealth from it. Let's go.
Longview, Texas, July 10th through the 12th, 1919. This time, black residents were ready. Tensions were already high. Black farmers had begun selling their cotton directly to the market, cutting out the white middleman. And when a black journalist was blamed for reporting on an interracial relationship, whites beat him nearly to death. That night, a white mob drove to his home to finish the job, but black defenders, some likely veterans, opened fire first. Wounded and humiliated, the white mob regrouped and broke into a hardware store to arm themselves. They returned with reinforcements, burning black homes, businesses, and the house of local black physicians. Texas governor declared martial law and sent the Texas Rangers and National Guard into Longview. One black man, Marion Bush, was shot dead by a posse while fleeing protective custody. Dozens were arrested, 17 white men for attempted murder, 21 black men for their own safety. None were ever tried. Longview confirmed a new reality. Black communities, especially black veterans, were no longer facing violence with bowed heads. They were fighting back.
Give me liberty or give
Washington,
me death.
D.C., July 19th to the 24th, 1919.
Really, give me liberty or give you death.
White newspapers ran sensational, fabricated stories of black men assaulting white women. The headlines lit a fire of fear and rage. On July 19th, hundreds of drunk white servicemen, a mob in uniform, as one historian called them, stormed the streets with pistols and clubs. They dragged black riders off streetcars, beat pedestrians on Pennsylvania Avenue, and attacked black neighborhoods. One of the first killed was Randall Neal, a 22-year-old black veteran. A black man was beaten with a brick filled with handkerchiefs near the White House. Violence unfolded in the literal shadow of the Capitol. And still, President Woodrow Wilson said nothing. But Washington was different from other cities because 5,000 black veterans lived there. When police refused to protect them, these men mobilized. Black snipers took position on rooftops to defend their neighborhoods. Barricades went up around Howard University. Armed black patrols protected families through the night. For the first time in American racial violence, white rioters suffered heavily, casualties too. Only when the situation spiraled beyond control did Wilson act. 2,000 federal troops marched into the city with bayonets fixed. Estimate suggests up to 40 people died, far more than the official claim of 7. Washington proved something powerful. Black veterans would not die quietly, not even in the capital of the United States. Chicago, July 27th through August 3rd, 1919. The fuse was a boy, just 17 years old. Eugene Williams drifted on a raft near a segregated Southside beach. A white woman, enraged that a black boy crossed an invisible line, threw rocks until one struck Eugene's head. He drowned before anyone could reach him. When black residents demanded the killer's arrest, the police refused. The city erupted. White mobs stormed black neighborhoods, shooting into homes and businesses. Black residents retaliated. These were people who had endured bombings, intimidation, and years of racist housing violence. On the south side, the Black Belt, black veterans took command. They formed militias, posted rooftop snipers, even broke into a National Guard army to seize rifles. Their military training saved countless lives. White gangs quickly learned that Black Belt was no place to invade. Still, the destruction was immense. 38 people died, 23 black, 15 white, 537 injured, 1,000 plus black families left homeless. Governor Frank Loden eventually sent 6,000 troops to restore order. A landmark investigation later exposed Chicago's deep segregation, racist policing, and white gang violence. Black Chicago already knew the truth. They had fought tyranny in Europe and again in their own city. Knoxville, Tennessee, August 30th to the 31st, 1919. The pattern repeated. Accusations, hysteria, mob. The white woman was murdered. Police arrested a black man, Maurice Mays. Despite weak evidence, thousands have gathered at the jail to lynch him. When they discovered Mays had been moved, the mob raided the jail, stole weapons, and rampaged through black neighborhoods. Gun battles erupted in the streets. The National Guard deployed. Machine guns were mounted downtown. By the end, at least 7 people were dead and hundreds wounded. Many black families fled the city permanently. Mays was later executed by all-white juries, still proclaiming his innocence. Knoxville proved no region was immune. Even in the Appalachian Mountains, the mob ruled. Omaha, Nebraska, September 28th through the 29th, 1919. This was terror, broadcasted in broad daylight. A black laborer, Will Brown, was accused of rape. The lynch mob gathered outside the courthouse. They set the building on fire, hoping smoke would force Brown out. Mayor Edward Smith tried to calm them, and the mob nearly lynched him too. They dragged Will Brown outside, beat him, hanged him from a lamppost, filled his body with bullets, burned him in the street while thousands watched. Photographs of lynching were sold as postcards. Federal troops eventually restored order, but justice never came. Not one white participant was punished. Omaha exposed America's darkest truth. Black life had no little value. Even cities in the Midwest embraced publicly lynching as celebration. Elaine, Arkansas, September 30th through October 2nd, 1919. This wasn't a riot, it was a massacre. Black sharecroppers gathered in a church, many of them veterans, to demand fair pay. A white deputy arrived, shots were fired, and the deputy died. By dawn, white planters were spreading a lie. The Negroes are rising in insurrection. Within hours, hundreds of white men from Arkansas, Mississippi, and beyond descended on Elaine with rifles. They shot black men, women, and children on sight. Families fled into the swamps, hunted like animals. Some soldiers joined the killing. Historians after historians agree Elaine may be the deadliest racial massacre in U.S. history. The death toll, at least 100 black people, likely over 200. Only 5 whites died, mostly in early exchanges. Nearly 300 black residents were arrested, tortured, forced to confess. 12 black men were sentenced to death in shame trials. It took the NAACP and the Supreme Court to eventually overturn the convictions, but no white killer was ever charged, ever. Elaine was the climax of Red Summer.
Man, look. As you have sown, so shall you reap. There's no mercy from me. I swear for God, I will walk over your dead motherfucking pale skinned body and keep it going. Probably piss on your ass too and spit in your fucking face. This is the curse of your ancestors upon the present generation. There's no mercy. No mercy. No mercy, no forgiveness, no none of that. When we ask to show mercy, you didn't do it. You laughed till you cried from laughter. Oh, it was funny. Oh, look at these niggas. Look at these little nigglets. Oh, ha ha. Look at, we're going to feed them to the alligators. Ah. Funny to you, right? Postcards and cutting the fingers off and using and keeping it as a souvenir. Eating the dead bodies, burning them to a crisp. I don't know how many thousands of times pregnant black women bellies were cut open and the baby fell out and you stomp your heel with all your might, heart, and soul into the chest of the baby. Okay, cool. All right. You ain't seen shit yet. And God is real. Justice will always come around and beat your motherfucking ass, white boy, white girl. You got it coming, and it ain't gonna stop ever. That curse upon you from your ancestors, bitches, is live and personal. Always live and personal, baby. You don't think that Gaddafi's son gonna forget about it and just say, well, it's okay. You took the gold. That's okay. Yeah. We cool. That ain't nothing but a motherfucking ploy, bitch. It's already written, said, and done. You reap what you sow. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? I didn't write the law, but I accept it if I do something wrong. I accept it in my actions. If I'm doing something wrong, I expect for something wrong to be coming back to me, to whatever degree that may be. I'm a moral person. I believe in morality run through my blood. Now, does that make me perfect? No. I may do 5 to 10% wrong, and I expect 5 to 10% back to be wrong. But the great majority of what I do is 95 to 90% right. So I'm not really worried about the little things I do. You know what I mean? But you white folk, there's no saving you, motherfuckers. None. None, 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 none. No, no, no. It is what it is. Let's keep it moving.
Massacre buried for generations because its truth was too devastating for America to face. Red Summer was not a handful of isolated riots. It was a national uprising of white violence. At least 25 cities and towns erupted in bloodshed. Norfolk, Virginia, 2 black servicemen killed after a parade for returning veterans. New York City, violent melees in Harlem. Philadelphia, 4 days of attacks on black homes. Baltimore, Cleveland, New Orleans, Indianapolis, Bisbee, Arizona, Macon, Georgia, Charleston, West Virginia. The Equal Justice Initiative counted 97 lynchings in 1919 outside the riots themselves. Red Summer was not a moment, it was an era, a season, when white America declared open season on black life. But something else happened too. For the first time on such a scale, black Americans fought back, especially black veterans, men who had tasted dignity overseas, men who refused surrender at home. They had survived the trenches of Europe, but Red Summer taught them that battlefield was waiting at home. A defining feature of 1919 was the role of black World War I veterans, men who refused to let their communities be slaughtered without resistance. In city after city, they stood at the center of defense, using their training, discipline, and courage to confront mobs that expected them to run. In Washington, D.C., black ex-soldiers climbed onto rooftops and took up sniper positions to stop white riders from marching unchecked through black neighborhoods. They organized patrols, guarded families, and held the line in a city where the police had abandoned them. In Chicago, veterans from the legendary units, the 370th Infantry and the 369th Harlem Hellfighters, and others formed militias. They coordinated block-by-block defense, patrolled the South Side, and even raided an armory for rifles when authorities refused to protect them. Witnesses described how they set up barricades around black districts and stood guard with the same calm, steady focus they had shown in France. One churchman marveled that these men carried themselves with as much calmness as if getting ready to shoot the Kaiser soldiers again. These veterans saved lives. Their resistance blunted attacks that would wipe entire communities off the map. But their bravery came at a cost. To white supremacists, a black man with a gun, a black man who had been respected overseas was their greatest nightmare. So black veterans became special targets of mob violence. At least 13 were lynched during 1919. Many more were beaten, hunted, or barely escaped with their lives. In the Washington Post, white citizens even placed ads urging white veterans to gather and attack black neighborhoods. Brother in arms turned against brothers in arms. During the Elaine massacre, white mobs and soldiers deliberately singled out black veterans, seeing them as the leaders of a non-existent rebellion. In Omaha, Will Brown's statue as black veterans likely sealed his fate before the mobs even laid hands on him. Yet despite the danger, their defiance reshaped black America. These men shattered the lie of black passivity. They proved publicly, fearlessly, that African Americans will not forever suffer violence in silence. As historian David F. Kruger wrote, 1919 was the year that African Americans fought back. The poet Claude McKay captured this new spirit in his famous sonnet, If We Must Die, written during Red Summer, a battle cry that echoed from street to street. Like men will face the murderers, cowardly pack, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. Their courage inspired a generation. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote that these returning soldiers were now fighting a sterner, longer war, not in France, but in the streets of America, demanding the democracy they had bled for. And many of the leaders who would carry the torch into the civil rights movement were veterans shaped by the furnace of 1919, men who never forgot the lessons learned in a summer of fire. Red Summer was not driven by hidden conspirators in the shadows. It was driven by ordinary white Americans. In city after city, the mobs weren't wearing hoods. They weren't whispering in secret societies. They were everyday white citizens, factory workers, shoekeepers, veterans, police officers, who needed no mask to unleash terror. As the historian notes, most writers were unaffiliated, whites who felt no shame, no fear, and no need for the Klan to authorize their violence. Yet the Klan was rising in the background, fueled by the racist blockbuster, The Birth of a Nation. The Ku Klux Klan surged back to life in the 1910s. By 1919, the Klan was marching again, literally, in Montgomery, Alabama. Its first public ride since Reconstruction took place that summer. Across the South, new recruits poured in, drawn by propaganda about Negro uprising and Bolshevik plots. Men in Rovic were reported on the outskirts of Washington, D.C., adding a chilling, organized shadow to the street-level violence. But the Klan wasn't the only force behind the terror. In some cities, white citizens' councils, American Legion posts, and even police fraternities helped create the condition for violence. In Chicago, white ethnic gangs like the Raging Cults, with political backing, acted as a preliminary force. Black neighborhoods, police officers, many sharing the same ethnic backgrounds as these gangs, often looked away or joined them. In Omaha, the mob that lynched Will Brown wasn't made of the rough element.
Now let me make this clear, that the growth of the Klan after the cinematic movie that came out, they just mentioned this shit. Something about the Klan and saving the white woman in the movie and all that shit. I forget the name of it. Damn movie. Damn it. But you know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, Gone with the Wind. So when that movie, no, it wasn't Gone with the Wind, but that's one of the things. That the one prior to that, shit, you know what I'm talking about. I just can't remember the name of it offhand. But doing after that movie, the rise of the Klan just went through the roof, and they were bold enough to have a parade in Washington, right outside the Capitol. You know what brought it down? It was an internal dissension. White boys were fucking raping their own women and babies. That's what happened. It wasn't nothing to do with, what black folk did to them. They did it to themselves. Like I always say, evil will always destroy itself in the end, and those who partake in it. Always, ALWAYS, and always, ALLWAYS. The white boy is so reprobated minded that they cannot see straight. They painted themselves into the corner of whiteness. They cannot get away, and they are scared shitless. They want to get away. They want to be, within the family, human family, but fuck all that shit now. You don't burn yourself right up into that corner, and you cannot get away from the filth and the hate and the rape and the murder that you motherfuckers have done and still doing. You don't fucking get it until you get it. But now you're gonna get this shit full blast from white wannabe motherfuckers who committing these crimes and from black folk. We're tired of you motherfuckers. You worthless pieces of shit. You like flies that land on shit, ain't worth a damn. Just like your forefathers before that, going all the way back to 100 and really going back to the time you first got here, 3,000 years ago. You wasn't doing shit. You had to be civilized from black folk. But I can hear and tell you right now, front and center, from with all my might, with all my heart and soul. Your mind will never know a day's rest. Your children for eternity, motherfuckers. And your heart shall run with fear. Every time you look at a black man or woman, you better hold your fucking head down or get it cut the fuck off. That's the road we're on. You better show some kind of fear and hold your motherfucking head down when you are passing children of ours. I'm telling you what is on the fucking menu. You will not escape this shit. The handwriting is on the wall, white boy, white girl. You cannot escape this shit. You must go through the fire, just like we did. But you know what? We are the real Jews. And the more you curse us, the more that cursing is coming back on you 1,000 times worse. Not these fake ass Khazarian Jews. They're not the real baby. They know that. Damn, what that white boy name? I gotta call him a white man. I don't know about anything else. Uh, I want to say Jerry Falwell, but that's not. Damn it. I just did this. Saturday. I can't believe I. But the white preacher guy. I mean, very well known. Damn. But anyway, he said it plainly that black people are the real Jews. I don't know why I want to keep saying Jerry Falwell, but that's not it. Billy Graham. That's his name. So let's finish this up, and I'll continue.
Included businessmen, clerks, fathers, and people who felt deputized by witness itself. In Norfolk, Virginia, active duty white Navy sailors and local police joined forces against black residents. White supremacy did not need to hide. It marched in uniform, patrolled in badges, and killed in broad daylight. The violence of 1919 was powered not just by mobs, but by newspapers. Major white-owned papers printed false stories, racial slurs, and fabricated accusations designed to inflame white readers. The most common lie, the oldest lie in American history, was the claim that black men were raping white women. It was a lynching script that needed no evidence. In Washington, the Washington Post went further than sensationalism. It published the exact meeting place where white servicemen should gather to attack black neighborhoods. It was a mob invitation printed on the front page of a respected newspaper. The Washington Times splashed headlines like Negro thugs, ensuring panic spread faster than the truth. Even decades later, the Washington Post would acknowledge its complicity. This was media as gasoline, and the nation was filled with matches. To deflect responsibility, politicians and newspapers pushed a new lie. Black resistance wasn't real. It was the work of Bolshevik agitators. The Justice Department under Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer and young J. Edgar Hoover obsessed over Reds. They imagined that black Americans would no longer accept the second-class treatment once have been manipulated by foreign ideologies. Senator James Vanderman claimed the Bolshevik emissaries were stirring up violence among black people. Even President Woodrow Wilson mused that foreign propaganda might be behind the riots. This narrative was convenient. It erased the centuries of oppression that fueled black anger. It blamed outsiders instead of acknowledging the violence committed by white Americans. Historians have found zero evidence that communists incited the riots, but the lie served its purpose. While white papers poured fuel on the fire, the black press fought to expose the truth. Papers like the Chicago Defender, Pittsburgh Courier, and the NAACP's The Crisis risked everything to document the atrocities. Their reporting, however, made them targets. Longview, Texas erupted partly because white mobs were enraged at Chicago Defender article revealing the truth about a lynching. NAACP investigator Walter White, whose skin was light enough to pass as white, went undercover into riot zones, risking his life to expose the horrors in Elaine and elsewhere. When locals discovered he was black, he narrowly escaped being killed. Despite intimidation, censorship, and threats, the black press told the world that white newspapers refused to print, that the mobs were white, that the victims were black, and that the violence was unprovoked. Across the country, authorities reacted with hesitation, denial, or complicity. In almost every city, the National Guard or federal troops were deployed only after 4 days of unchecked violence. Chicago's mayor waited almost 4 days before requesting troops, arguing with the governor while the city burned. President Wilson remained silent during the Washington riot until foreign diplomats began asking why the U.S. Capitol looked like a war zone. Police in many cities refused to arrest white rioters, often joining them. In Omaha, officers failed to stop the mob from storming the courthouse. Some were beaten back themselves. While troops finally arrived, they restored order with violence and curfews, but justice rarely followed. Grand juries filled with white men who shared the same prejudice as the mobs overwhelmingly indicted black defenders rather than white attackers. In Washington, 2 black men received long prison sentences, while white rioters faced little consequence. In Chicago, only minor convictions were handed out, and white gang leaders escaped accountability entirely. Across America, white perpetrators walked free. The message was unmistakable. The justice system did not value black life. At the national level, no comprehensive federal action was taken. The NAACP pushed hard for the Dreyer anti-lynching bill, first introduced in 1918. Red Summer intensified the demand. The bill passed the House in 1922, a historic victory, but Southern senators filibustered it to death. President Woodrow Wilson, who had championed the human rights abroad, refused to champion them at home. His silence during the worst racial violence of the century is a lasting stain on his legacy. Red Summer did not end with the final riot. It did not end when troops rolled their bayonets back into their armories. And it did not end when newspapers moved on to the next scandal of 1919. For Black America, the war simply changed battlefields. The veterans who had once fought the Kaisers now found themselves fighting sheriffs, mobs, newspapers, and lawmakers. They survived mustard gas in France only to face firebombs in their own neighborhood. They had defended democracy abroad, yet they were denied democracy at home. But they did not return defeated, they returned determined. Across the nation, Black veterans emerged as teachers, ministers, union leaders, organizers, and early civil rights activists, men who carried within them the memory of 1919 and the knowledge that freedom would not be given, it would be taken. Red Summer forced America to confront a truth it had long buried, that Black resistance was real, disciplined, and unbreakable, that Black people were not going back to the world before the war, that the lie of white supremacy could no longer survive unchallenged. The Great Migration accelerated. Thousands fled the towns where mobs ruled, searching for northern cities where they could start over. And then, even when racism followed them, they carried something new with them, a fire ignited by veterans who stood their ground. Black newspapers strengthened. The NAACP grew into a national force. Writers, poets, and thinkers transformed trauma into art, strategy, and vision. When Claude McKay wrote, "If we must die," he wasn't addressing the mobs of 1919. He was speaking to generations. His words became a blueprint for dignity under fire, a hymn of defiance, a vow. Throughout the decades that followed, the Montgomery bus boycott, the Freedom Riders, the March on Washington, Selma, you could still hear the echoes of 1919 carried by veterans of a war the history books never taught. The veterans of Red Summer taught America something it desperately wanted to ignore. Black courage is older than Black oppression. Black resistance is older than white supremacy. Black freedom will outlast them both. Red Summer was a season of blood, but it was also the birth of a new Black consciousness, forged in fire and held together by men who refused to bow. Their fight was not just for themselves, it was for us, for every generation that would come after. And today, when we look back on 1919, we don't just see the mobs or the ashes, we see the soldiers standing in the doorways of burning homes. We see the snipers on the rooftops of Washington. We see the militias on Chicago's South Side. We see the farmers in Lane who held a rifle not for rebellion but for survival. We see a people who refused to surrender. Red Summer tried to silence them. Instead, it made them immortal. This is their story, their legacy, their unfinished war. This is Dias Unite, where the story continues together.
Now you see that the black soldier who terrified the KKK. I'm gonna copy that and put that in the chat so you guys can check that out. Hold on.
Compadre, yo también estoy activo. Yo te voy a enviar un mensaje. Me voy a enviar un par de mensajes que estoy entre ayer y hoy para que tú.
Calla la boca, calla la boca, calla la boca. Okay, so if we don't know by now, we should know that the white boy just a scared little bitch. If he got a gun and we ain't got a gun, oh, he talking big shit. He talking big shit because he got one on us. But if we got a gun and they got a gun, they're going to lose. There's nothing wrong with killing white folks who want to kill you. If the KKK come down into your town, like not so long ago, a group of white boys in Atlanta came into a black neighborhood, they got killed. They were sent to the morgue. Nothing happened to them. So I'm here to tell you right now, for my brothers and my sisters in America and around the globe, get your fucking gun and blow their fucking brains out. This is the only thing they understand. Not saying violence is equal to violence, but 10 times violence on our side against their one-time violence. You understand what I'm telling you? Go the fuck off and start killing. If they're talking about that KKK bullshit, that don't mean a motherfucking thing. Nothing. They're not going to come into our Black Wall Street no more. The government is not going to allow that shit to happen no more with the National Guard and the National Guard taking position with them. That shit is dead in the water. They're not coming. Because they know they're going to get their fucking brains blown out. Just like France. France is not stupid enough. They're going to have a proxy war with Nigeria attacking Mali, Ghana, and Burkina Faso. But I'm here to tell you, all skin folks are not kin folks. They're going to kill Tinubu. They're going to kill Ouattara, however you say that motherfucker's name. But all these niggas are Sambo ass niggas. Coonan, forward white boy, better known as Macron. But you cannot stop a revolution whose time has come. Gaddafi said it. If you kill me, you'll be opening the door to all of hell for all of eternity. Now look at it. White folks are scared. I don't remember the name of the video, but it has some Muslim people confronting the white boy and his family, and he's telling them the truth. Y'all ain't having no baby. We having a baby, and pretty soon we're gonna be overtaking your motherfucking asset and kill you. Case closed. Now, what I'm gonna be talking about now. Hold on, let me see how this. Okay, how this is going. So we're going to jump right into what is really happening with XRP and all that. I'm not shifting gears, but if you can see what I'm saying, it's all connected. And the idea is that the dollar is no more. It's going to be a reset of the currencies throughout the world. I think, if I remember correctly, Vietnam or Thailand did it already. They gotten rid of their currency and forcing people onto the digital dollar. This is what our government is going to be doing here in the United States of America, if not worldwide, and letting it ease itself in. So what I'm going to do, and I covered this on previous videos too, right? So looking at a switch up, a swap, so to speak, where the dollar does not become, or was, the reserve currency. So the reserve currency now will be XRP. Now, what's the difference between XRP and Bitcoin? Bitcoin takes about 15 minutes to get the money. XRP takes about 2 seconds to get the money. Now, which one do you think they're going to be doing? And this is why I say buy XRP, and more importantly, buy Flare. Flare is, if XRP is the car, then Flare, F-L-A-R-E, whose ticker symbol is FLR, is the engine. Now, I got it. I'm not trying to brag, but at 2 cents a pop for the Flare, you can't help but make money. It's like you're getting, for every dollar, you get 50. But now it's a little bit less than 2 cents for each one. And when I got into XRP, it was 50 cents. And thank God for our sister, with brother Marie, sister Cassie. I gotta give you homage. You flick that switch, it'll lit the fuse, and I had to buy it. So now even if it's at $2 now, I'm still up by what, 400%. So I'm not gonna sell what I got. So I got 120,000 XRPs and a million plus, a little bit over a million of Flare. So we're cool. But the thing is that you got to understand this world is changing, you guys. If you're on the wrong side of that ledger, you're getting fucked. I'm just being plain and simple. You're going to get fucked, because once the reset happens, for every $100 you might get $10. That's the reset. Now America, they say it's $38 trillion in debt, but the overall wealth of America is over $200 trillion. So it's not like it's broke. You know what I mean? It's $200 trillion. But let's go on and I'm gonna get into more detail about what XRP is and how that fits into tonight's discussion. And it's all about economic supremacy, black supremacy, and reserving and preserving our wealth. I'll be right back. I'm gonna let it play all out.
For over a decade. Now, what just happened here marks one of the most important moments in financial history where the definition of money itself is changing. And if you're not prepared for these changes, and what this means for the digital asset XRP, then I genuinely believe that you may be left behind by what comes next. There is this company called Ripple that is trying to solve a multi-trillion-dollar liquidity problem. And the chief bank.
Now, just remember, Ripple just became a bank. So, yeah, that's the other thing, too. There will be no more bank. There will be no more Citibank. There will be no more whatever, Scotiabank. There will be no more anything. Get your fucking money out of the bank because they just had a story of a guy who had like $3,000 in the bank. The bank took it. But he went to the bank to try to draw it all out. But the bank took it and he was going to buy his son a motorbike or whatever the fuck it was. Get your shit out that motherfucker. Because pretty soon you're going to be your own bank. You don't need no credit. And the credit system, that's going away. You're going to become your own bank. You don't need to be waiting on nobody there to approve shit. You approve it yourself. And I love the fact that we got 110 plus thousand XRPs and a million flares. So I'm up and ready, baby.
Banking regulator in the United States, the OCC, just gave Ripple permission to do it. Ripple, alongside of many other companies, were just given conditional approval for a national banking charter. This comes after Ripple has spent years and over $100 million fighting the Securities and Exchange Commission and being labeled a scam and a fraud by key figures within their industry and beyond. Now, Ripple is not the only company that received this conditional approval. They also gave this conditional approval for BitGo, Fidelity Digital Assets, and Paxos as well. But if you cannot see that these companies are not playing the same game, then you're missing a critical piece of the puzzle. So many people think of Ripple as a crypto company, but Ripple is a financial services company with several different financial licenses, and now they're about to get the most important one under their belt. And that's not the only thing that sets Ripple apart. The thing that really sets them apart is that Ripple is the only one of all these companies that has its own volatile native crypto asset called XRP that is systemically important to its entire business model. So Ripple now has conditional approval for a national banking charter. But what is a national banking charter and what does that actually mean? A banking charter is a federal license that's granted by what's called the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency. You'll see it referred to as the OCC. And this allows an institution to operate as a bank or a national trust bank. And in this case, that is what Ripple has been approved to be, as a national trust bank. Ripple did not get approved here or conditionally approved here to become your traditional consumer bank, but rather a national trust bank, which is focused on custody, payment, settlement, and fiduciary services. Okay, and they're going to be doing this for other companies. Now, this approval is conditional, so Ripple still has to meet requirements before this charter becomes fully operational. Now, once they are fully approved, Ripple will be able to operate nationwide under federal oversight, provide regulated custody and asset services, potentially integrate their stablecoin operations under a federally supervised entity, and benefit from federal preemption of state-by-state licensing. Okay, these are the main benefits that they're going to get from this. But what does this actually mean? And why are these big banks potentially going to be upset about this? To understand why this is not great for big banks. We have to fully understand Ripple, their business model, and their mission. Ripple is a fintech company that enables banks and other financial institutions to send money to one another cross-border more efficiently. Okay, this is competing with big banks who are able to get away with charging incredibly high fees for cross-border payments, as they are the only ones, right, that are allowed to offer such a service. We've seen some fintechs pop up over the past 5 to 10 years to try and solve this problem as well, but very few crypto-native companies have the licenses that allow them to do this in a way that Ripple is about to be able to do. Now, Ripple has a solution called on-demand liquidity, where banks can swap one currency for another instantly and for negligible fees. The major market that Ripple is going after with this on-demand liquidity solution is a $16 trillion market involving what are called nostro vostro accounts, where banks will leave money sitting around in foreign currencies for whenever they need it, for when their customers need to send.
Vibe Coding 101 Part 3. Stop typing your prompts. Seriously. Your prompting
payments cross-border. If a client in one part of the world needs to send money to a customer in another part of the world who uses a different currency, the bank will hold money in an account to be able to quickly offer that money to the recipient in their local currency, rather than having to go out into the foreign exchange on demand and make that transaction. So approximately $16 trillion of capital sits around in bank accounts for this exact purpose. Ripple's on-demand liquidity solution aims to solve this problem by offering banks one currency that they can hold all that capital in the form of the digital asset XRP, which can be instantly converted from one currency to another over the XRP ledger. So instead of holding a bunch of different currencies, you just hold XRP. And if this on-demand liquidity solution is adopted and utilized worldwide, that will likely have a massive impact on the demand and therefore probably the price of this asset called XRP. Now stick with me, because we got to talk about how we actually get there. So what does this have to do with Ripple getting a banking charter? And this is what a lot of people are going to get wrong about this. Ripple's bank charter is not about the digital asset XRP directly. Instead, it's about the stablecoin that Ripple released in late 2024 called RLUSD. This banking charter allows Ripple to be fully compliant as a custodian of this stablecoin without having to rely on a third party. But what is a stablecoin, and why does this actually matter? Well, a stablecoin is a digital representation of a dollar that is issued and that can be used on a blockchain. You can have a stablecoin for non-fiat currencies as well, but we're going to stick to that definition for now. There are several different types of stablecoins. You have the primary ones being crypto-backed, algorithmic, or custodial stablecoins. And RLUSD is a custodial stablecoin. And what that means is that whenever someone is purchasing a custodial stablecoin, they're expecting that the issuer, in this case Ripple for RLUSD, is going to go out and buy assets that will fully back that stablecoin so that it maintains its value one-to-one with the money that they've put into the stablecoin. Earlier this year, the U.S. government rushed to pass a law called the Genius Act. And this law requires that stablecoin issuers back their issuances one-to-one with short-term U.S. treasuries in particular. As a bank, Ripple can issue their own stablecoin and manage this entire process end-to-end, rather than having to rely on a bank who would have to hold those treasuries on their behalf otherwise, right? If you look at Tether, for instance, Tether would have to hold those treasuries in some bank's account. But Ripple is going for this national banking charter so that they can be the bank that holds the treasuries. So what is the point of these stable coins? And what does this have to do with XRP, Keith? Okay. Stablecoins enable instant, cheap transfers of fiat currency in real time to anywhere in the world. They also enable access to dollars from anywhere in the world with just an internet connection, which is massive in countries where access to dollars can actually be limited or restricted by governments and banking regulations. So how does this banking charter and Ripple's RLUSD tie in to the ODL, on-demand liquidity solution, and the digital asset XRP. Let's talk about it. From what I understand, RLUSD is going to be the first of many stablecoins that Ripple launches. And now that they have conditional approval for the National Banking Charter, Ripple should be able to go out here and much more easily build out demand and liquidity for RLUSD, which is one of the first things that's necessary to fulfill its mission for on-demand liquidity. Ripple is also going to be launching stablecoins in several different fiat currencies down the line, from what I understand. And I believe that building that liquidity for RLUSD is the very first step in realizing that full vision. Now, the thing is that if currencies are not digitized, then Ripple's on-demand liquidity solution is going to have a lot more friction and isn't necessarily going to actually work. You need to have tokenized versions of these fiat currencies in order to actually smoothly take advantage of all the benefits that blockchain has to offer.
Hold on.
Wait, the 4 things you need to make your space amazing are right here.
And this is why Ripple receiving this conditional banking charter is so vital to the future of XRP. In my head, the plan here is to digitize fiat currencies, the ones that are in the most high demand first. So RLUSD, RLEUR for the euro, RLGBP for the pound, and RLJPY for the Japanese yen. They can name them whatever they want, but that's how I'm seeing it coming together. Now, then, they need to build up the use of these stablecoins by converting fiat currencies into stablecoins. This will be done by working with the regulators in each of these countries to meet the requirements of whatever laws that they have and be the #1 stablecoin provider of that currency wherever they are. Then you have these stablecoins available to be used in the on-demand liquidity solution, where XRP can be swapped in and out of instantly on-chain with negligible fees. Now you have the full loop in place, and XRP can be adopted to solve the $16 trillion Nostro Vostro issue and much more. Now, what does all of this mean for XRP? Well, this is where things get interesting. Because right now, this digital asset is not valued in the way that one would expect. Instead, it's purely being traded as a speculative asset and not as if there's actual utility. It trades like a stock rather than like the price of electricity. In the future, when on-demand liquidity is adopted, we could imagine a world where XRP is valued based upon the actual supply of XRP available in the open market versus the demand for XRP and cross-border payments using on-demand liquidity. But how do we measure the price of XRP today? The most common way to look at the value of any asset really is called market capitalization. Now, this is usually used in stocks, and it's also used in crypto. But crypto is a totally different kind of asset class. But right now, this is how it works. You take the total circulating supply of the asset, and you multiply that by the current price of the asset. And this essentially tells you how large the market is for that asset. So when it comes to valuing XRP, it's not as simple as just, oh, well, there's $16 trillion in Nostro Vostro accounts, and if we use all of that to buy XRP, then the price of XRP must reflect a $16 trillion market cap. That's not how market cap works. We have to keep in mind that there's this concept called the multiplier effect, where $1 in or out can impact the price of an asset by many multiples of that number. The reason being, once again, we have to take into account the actual supply of the asset. If $1 worth of XRP is not readily available at the current market prices, then you'll have to pay a premium for that XRP. And this is part of how that multiplier effect can come into play. It's also not that just because XRP solves a $16 trillion problem, that it must have a market cap of at least $16 trillion. Because we also have to keep in mind that the impact of solving this problem and speeding up the velocity of capital could be worth way more than just that $16 trillion. So when it comes to trying to determine what Ripple's conditional banking charter approval means for the price of XRP, there's no definitive answer for what impact this is going to have or when it's going to have that effect. The only thing that matters to me is establishing the direction that things are moving in and the magnitude of the problems that Ripple is trying to solve with this digital asset. The US government is pushing blockchain adoption, and Ripple getting a conditional national banking charter approval tells me the direction, and the size of the $16 trillion Nostro Basho problem gives me an idea of the magnitude of the problem being solved. And keep in mind that $16 trillion of Nostro Basho capital is only a piece of what Ripple is actually trying to accomplish, but it's the most applicable today. All of this comes alongside the fact that Ripple has been making some vital acquisitions and investments this year. One of them was a company called Hidden Road, which is a prime brokerage service. Basically, a prime brokerage service is responsible for the wholesale buying and selling of securities for large institutions that meet minimum capital requirement. Imagine large banks or hedge funds that need to place trades in the hundreds of millions of dollars over the counter. Ripple bought this company because they could potentially use RLUSD inside of this company to use it as the settlement layer for these securities transactions. We also have the CFTC offering pilots for the use of stablecoins as collateral in derivatives transactions. So there's a chance that Ripple's RLUSD will be opened up for a multi-trillion-dollar use case there as well. Ripple also invested in a company called G Treasury, which is going to serve as the first publicly traded XRP treasury company in the US, where the company sets out to prove the efficacy of using XRP as a treasury asset with the potential to further increase the demand for XRP as an investment as well as a utility. Now, what do you do about all of this? Well, there's one obvious answer, in that it doesn't look like Ripple or its digital asset XRP is going anywhere. Ripple itself is a privately traded company and actually just raised $500 million from Fortress Capital Management and Citadel at a $40 billion valuation. Now, none of this is financial advice, but I'll tell you right now, I surely wouldn't bet against Citadel, personally. Just saying.
Hold on.
Now, to be fair, it is much harder to get your hands on shares of Ripple, but there are platforms out there that offer shares of Ripple on secondary markets. The digital asset XRP, on the other hand, does very much so trade on the open market. And it even survived a multi-year lawsuit where it was actually, during that time, much harder to get your hands on that asset, as all of the exchanges delisted it at that time. My recommendation is to continue to research Ripple and its mission, and whether or not the digital asset XRP is actually necessary to achieving the company's mission, as this is by far the most widely used critique against that asset in particular. This is Keith D. I'm here to talk everything money and markets. And if you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe. What did I get wrong about this? Or in what way have I completely lost my mind? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, also be sure to subscribe to Memes and Markets. It's my live show that I do with Ben Levitt. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We talk about things like this. We also talk about where culture meets financial markets. You can click the link in the description to subscribe there. You might have noticed that I am clearly in an airport. And I'm actually back in the United States. And that's because my best friend just had a family emergency. And I'm just on my way back to do what I can to be with him and his family. And the other reason is because a lot of you that are watching this are actually part of the reason why I'm even able to make such a decision on a dime. And I'm forever grateful for you. So I just wanted to say thank you for all the support that you give me, and I look forward to finding ways to bring that value back. With that being said, it's Keith D, and I'll see.
All right, so we said May and Market right here on YouTube. Hold on, let me. Okay, so I'll subscribe to that, and hopefully I can catch a show or two. So
You can't lead if you use these phrases.
let me try to address this because we're down to the last two videos, and I'm not tired yet, amazingly. So all of this is being said to say what? The idea is that the world is changing, you guys. The world is what do they call it? Fading back to black, and the new world order is black. The global South is united. On February the 26th, 2026, United States of Africa is born. It's already been born. It just come to light, legally speaking, I guess, if I wanted to say it that way. And the idea is that 1.5 billion people on the continent of Africa are not using the dollar, are not using the franc, are not using the yuan, are not using the yen. They're using their own currency, backed by all the gold and silver and whatever other minerals and oil that they have behind that, just like Gaddafi wanted. And now that, and you can take a look at some of my old videos. That is the very essence of what Gaddafi were talking about. Africa is woke now. The mother of all is woke and standing up and looking around and saying who did what. And she got that belt out. And she just beating that ass economically, politically, spiritually, and physically. It's over. White folks, the white boy went to sleep for 100 years thinking he won't be on top all the time and forever. But that's not true. It's like the hare and the tortoise, or the turtle, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And the black man, woman, people, we are the tortoise, and the white boy and white girl and white folks are the hare. They went to sleep, woke up, heard all of the hustle and bustle, and saw all the flames and ticker tapes and everything at the finish line. And who was it? Black folks. We won already, economically, politically, spiritually, and physically. And it's over. Pretty soon, we're going to buy up everything in Europe and America and Canada and Australia, economically speaking, and write laws, policies, and regulations that are going to benefit us and fuck over the white boy. Your bitch going to be swinging on this long-ass black dick. Your bitch is going to be swinging on this long-ass black dick like they've been doing all along. They just thinking, whatever they were thinking, I don't know. But now it's over. The time has come. The end is near. And it's right here, right now. And it's just going to get sweeter and sweeter for black folks. They're going to get poorer and poorer for you motherfuckers because you deserve it. What goes around comes around. So we're going to go right into this next video. This is only 5 minutes long. And this is the Africa's richest man exposes Nigeria's corruption. Hold on.
That's supposed to be the refining hub of not even West Africa, of the sub-Saharan African region. We have the crude and we have the refineries. If our own continues to work, we have the NNPC's refineries. So our own and NNPC is over 1 million tons. 1 million tons can feed the entire West Africa and Central Africa. So, and I don't know why, we should continue to allow, some corrupt government officials to try and destroy a whole sector of the economy. And I think it is something that when you look at it, I've had actually people making complaint about, a regulator who has actually put his children in secondary school. And that secondary school education, which is 6 years, 4 of them cost Nigeria $5 million. I mean, you cannot imagine somebody paying $5 million for educating 5 children. Even my own children, they didn't go to those schools. My children went to Nigerian secondary school. They didn't go outside Nigeria to attend secondary school. I don't know about your children, Tony, but mine, yes. So, and this is a system that, some of us, because you know what, we're taxpayers. When people are complaining, we also complain, because the issue is that, yes, when I pay tax, I want to see that my money is being put to use, not to be stolen. But today, as we speak, the I don't know what is the, that is the authority chief executive, Malam Farouk. Malam Farouk has 4 of his children that he educated in Switzerland at the cost of $5 million for their secondary school education alone, not university. And I know that one of them just finished Harvard. So I want to now see what kind of system are we operating that, people are now busy destroying a country, taking money from the government. Because when you look at his income does not match paying this kind of fees. I think even if it's me paying $5 million for 6 years for my 4 children, the taxman has to look at my taxes, how much I pay. And really, this sort of thing, we're not going to allow it to continue. We will take it up to the highest authority so that they will look at it. People who have done something wrong must be prosecuted. It must be prosecuted, because there is actually no way where somebody will now come. I mean, today, from where he comes from, Sokoto, people are struggling to pay 100,000 naira for school fees of secondary school. And a lot of children are at home, not going to school because of 100,000 naira. Tony, can you pay this fee? No, I'm asking. Can you? I can't. Okay, so if you cannot afford, I cannot understand why somebody who has worked all his life in government and he has 4 children that he has paid $5 million. I've seen that people have taken this post and nobody is listening to them. So we will actually join them to make sure that this is done properly. The man must come and explain to Nigerians how he paid $5 million for 6 years of his 4 children's education. And I don't think if any one of you has actually paid that kind of fees for your own, children. So we can't allow this to continue, because we must make sure that people don't come and destroy a country just because they want to make a living that is not genuine or that is not, legal. Because, I mean, for somebody to have this sort of money, he must be supported by people. He should come out and tell people how did he make $5 million to educate his children in Switzerland with a cost of $5 million. And when these questions are answered, before we go to the to the court, he should come out and reply. This is what we have seen, and I think we must make sure that this system, this what do you call it, this downstream, must not be destroyed by one single person because of personal interest.
Okay. So now we're at the very end, the last video, and I'm going to just let it play out. Hold on. And then I'm going to go into to the X, because there were some things that I wanted to focus in on. Shit, what the hell? Tyler was just doing anything back to that. Yeah, hold on, I'm sorry about that. Look like she's hanging herself. But anyway, let me play this video, and then we're gonna get right into some important things that I have seen on X. Hold on, and we'll be able to tie it up and get right into the straight comments. All right, so hold on.
This morning, as you reached for your phone, whether to check the forecast or scan the headlines, something quietly unfolded that could redefine not just Africa's destiny, but the entire digital universe. Without the usual Silicon Valley noise or glossy Google presentations, Africa flipped the switch on its own internet. For 1,400,000,000 souls, the digital landscape just transformed irreversibly. For decades, both Americans and Africans have lived under the illusion that the internet was borderless, equal, and universal. But beneath that hopeful facade lies a harsher reality. The internet you and I navigate isn't an unbiased avenue. It's a toll road controlled by a handful of corporations rooted in California and Seattle, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. These giants have dictated how swiftly your searches reach you, what you pay to connect, and which information climbs to the top. For more than 20 years, Africa has been forced to bow to their rules. Today, that subservience ends. The African Union has introduced a continental internet exchange, a parallel backbone conceived not through Western corporate lenses, but crafted with Africans at heart. This is far more than a new internet provider. It stands as a digital proclamation of sovereignty, a tech revolution in its purest form. Pause and consider this. When a student in Lagos queries African history, why should that search route through Europe, filtered by algorithms that often drown out African voices? Why must an entrepreneur in Ouagadougou shell out inflated charges to Silicon Valley shareholders for cloud storage when servers could be positioned right in their city? Now, ponder this crucial question. What happens when one among 1,400,000,000 people ceases leasing space on American digital highways and begins laying down their own roads? What does this portend for Google, Washington, and the very concept of a unified internet? Stay with me until the end, because this narrative isn't only about Africa's future, it concerns all of us. If you value truth over monopolies, hit subscribe. And for those eager to witness the birth of a post-Google world, share this video right now. To most of us, the internet feels immediate, invisible, and universal type. Click, and within a blink, answers appear. But behind every search exists a sprawling network of cables, servers, and exchange points, largely owned not by governments, but by Western corporations. For Africa, this has often been a painful reality. Each time someone from Ghana, Kenya, or Burkina Faso browsed the web, their data embarked on a journey thousands of miles away to Europe or North America before looping back. Imagine sending a letter to your next-door neighbor, but it first crosses the entire Atlantic. This was Africa's routine digital existence. This flawed system spawned three grave issues. First, it was costly. Africa endures some of the highest internet prices globally, not from lack of demand, but from renting space on foreign infrastructure. Second, it was sluggish and inconsistent. A student in Nairobi downloading a textbook faced longer waits than peers in Paris or Boston simply because data had to detour continents. Third, it concentrated control. Firms like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft didn't just provide services, they held the keys to Africa's digital gates. Every click, every transaction, every email passed under their watchful surveillance. That precarious dependence shattered when the African Union launched its continental internet exchange. For the first time in modern history, an entire continent chose to stop borrowing roads and began constructing its own digital highways. Highways made of fiber optic cables, data centers, and a novel set of digital protocols crafted around African realities. The scope is staggering. Over 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cables now connect capitals and villages alike. 47 major data centers are now operational across the continent, each engineered to meet the heavy demands of modern cloud computing. And exchange points, the hubs where digital traffic converges and reroutes, stand in every major city. From Dar es Salaam to Johannesburg, from Ouagadougou to Dakar, Africa has woven its own nervous system, breaking free from foreign lifelines. This shift holds profound human significance. Picture a young entrepreneur in Burkina Faso building an app for local farmers. Previously, her app's data may have had to bounce through Europe before reaching neighbors just miles away, leading to steep costs, sluggish speeds, and the looming threat of foreign interference or censorship. Now, with the Continental Internet Exchange, her app's data stays firmly within African borders. Farmers in Wahiguya or Bobo Dioulasso can access her platform instantly without paying hidden Silicon Valley tolls. The initiative also confronts the subtle inequity of content curation. Under Western dominance, search engines favored sources from Europe or North America, sidelining African research, indigenous languages, and local wisdom. An African student seeking history could easily discover more about Napoleon than the Great Mali Empire. The new African Digital Protocol changes this. Incompatible with Google's indexing, it employs decentralized knowledge mapping designed to prioritize African voices above all. When someone searches Burkina Faso independence, they no longer wade through Western summaries. Instead, they receive original research from African universities and oral histories digitized by local institutions, and content in indigenous tongues. What we witness is no mere technological advance. It signals a profound philosophical transformation. For decades, Africa was told that connectivity spelled dependence and that engaging in the global economy demanded submission to Western paradigms. By erecting its own digital infrastructure, Africa has declared it will no longer merely consume another system. It has become the architect of its own destiny. The figures already speak volumes. Within merely 3 days of launch, 200 million Africans had transitioned to this new network. That rapid adoption outpaced even the early growth of Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. The reason is clear. This network suits Africans better. It's quicker, cheaper, and speaks their languages both literally and culturally. This is the heart of the narrative. Africa stopped seeking approval. It constructed an internet that mirrors its realities, safeguards its data, and keeps its wealth circulating within the continent. For 1,400,000,000 souls, this represents far more than faster Wi-Fi. It's a gateway to dignity, sovereignty, and the agency to chart their own digital future. Initial reports on the Continental Internet Exchange were met with subtle skepticism. Analysts in New York and London dismissed it as symbolic bravado, another grand African vision that would take years to bear fruit. Yet, within mere hours, their assumptions began to unravel. Across Africa, connection speeds surged overnight. In Nairobi, students who once lamented sluggish downloads now streamed lectures seamlessly. In Lagos, small enterprises spotted their transaction fees dropping, freed from routing payments through Europe. In Ouagadougou, journalists shared how searching for information in Morla yielded results unfiltered by Google algorithms, instead curated through indigenous African knowledge systems. Then came the pivotal moment, when this initiative shifted from a technological feat to a seismic geopolitical event. Within just 3 days of launch, over 200 million Africans had migrated to the new system. This stupendous figure stunned the tech world. No platform before, not Facebook, TikTok, or WhatsApp, had ever seen adoption on such an immense scale so swiftly. What Silicon Valley had dismissed as a fringe experiment had ignited a continental exodus. This was the apex of the saga. Africa had not just built its own internet, it had persuaded its people to embrace it at once. The message resonated powerfully. Africans weren't clinging to Western systems out of loyalty, they were trapped by lack of alternatives, and when given a real choice, they deserted en masse. Google's response was one of palpable alarm. Reports poured in of emergency meetings in Mountain View, California. Executives gathered in glass-walled rooms, eyes fixed on maps, alight with adoption rates climbing by the second. Their dilemma was unprecedented. Previous challengers, Yahoo, Bing, even TikTok could be acquired, mimicked, or outspent. But Africa's digital protocol was built to resist. It was deliberately incompatible. Google's search crawlers, advertising systems, and cloud platforms simply could not operate on this new network without a complete overhaul. The tremors were felt beyond Google alone. Microsoft and Amazon, whose revenues hinge heavily on cloud computing, faced the risk of losing billions of dollars from African government and corporate clients. For decades, Africa had quietly funneled more than $50 billion annually into Western digital services. Now, that stream was vanishing overnight, redirected toward African developers, African data centers, and indigenous platforms. Politically, responses were immediate. Technology CEOs in Silicon Valley pressed Washington for guidance. Should the United States intervene diplomatically? Could sanctions be justified under digital security pretexts? Meanwhile, in Paris and London, political circles fretted over fading influence in a region they once ruled. Without control over Africa's digital lifelines, traditional pressures cutting access, surveillance, narrative control were slipping away. Within Africa, the sentiment was jubilant. Leaders hailed not only the technical feat, but the symbolic triumph. This was sovereignty realized not in empty slogans but in code and fiber optic cables. Youth movements championed it as proof that Africa could lead innovation, not just imitate. Voices like Burkina Faso's President Ibrahim Traoré linked it to larger battles. If Africa could reclaim its gold mines, farmland, and now its internet, then the era of reliance was genuinely ending. Globally, the repercussions rippled outward. South America announced plans to study Africa's model for its own continental network. In Asia, conversations began on crafting regional alternatives to Silicon Valley's control. What started as an African initiative was swiftly evolving into a worldwide movement. The illusion of a single, unified internet under Western dominion was fracturing, replaced by a vision of regional ecosystems, each sovereign, self-sufficient. The massive adoption and ensuing reactions uncovered a deeper truth. This was never simply about faster speeds or lower costs. It was a struggle for power. For the first time, a continent long seen as a digital consumer had become a digital creator, and the world could no longer ignore it. When the switch flipped, the benefits were immediate and striking. Faster connections, reduced costs, African content has finally been brought center stage on African screens. Yet, beyond the technicalities lies a far deeper impact: civil and political transformations that are profound. For everyday people, this change restores dignity. For years, Africans have endured some of the steepest charges worldwide for services that were often sluggish and unreliable. A household in Burkina Faso might devote a large portion of its income simply to keep their children connected for school. But now, with infrastructure governed locally, these hidden expenses disappear. Access shifts from being a luxury to a fundamental right. Students tucked away in remote villages can attend virtual lessons without interruptions. Medical professionals in rural clinics can exchange patient records securely without their data crossing European servers. These practical improvements translate directly into stronger economic conditions. The stakes are monumental. By erecting its own internet backbone, Africa has halted the constant outflow of funds to Silicon Valley. That staggering $50 billion annually, once siphoned off to foreign investors, now fuels local data centers, pays African engineers, and nurtures homegrown startups. The ripple effect is extraordinary. Every single dollar cycles through regional economies, creating employment in construction, software development, and education sectors. Africa is no longer importing services but exporting a newfound confidence. Politically, the ramifications are even more powerful. For decades, Africa's reliance on Western internet infrastructure left it exposed to external pressure. Governments faced threats of digital sanctions, opposition voices could be suppressed by foreign-owned platforms, and sensitive data was monitored or manipulated thousands of miles away. The Continental Internet Exchange shatters that dynamic. By retaining data traffic within African borders, the continent attains digital sovereignty. No foreign entity can cut the connection, slow transmissions, or impose conditions. This new sovereignty resonates deeply with Africa's youthful population. With over 60% under the age of 25, these young people are true digital natives. They've grown up with smartphones but never with systems created for their unique cultures. This new African digital framework, which emphasizes local languages and knowledge, speaks directly to their identity. It affirms their worth and assures them that their voices carry weight in the digital era. The emotional significance of this shift is immense. On the political front, leaders across Africa have embraced this initiative as a symbol that the continent can not only resist outside influence but forge its own future. Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré, has long cautioned about the dangers of dependency, be it in mining contracts, farming, or foreign assistance. Now, reclaiming internet control gives his warnings concrete meaning. Traoré and other leaders can point to fiber optic cables and data hubs as undeniable proof that sovereignty is far more than talk, it is tangible infrastructure. Yet sovereignty also carries responsibility. With authority over their digital realms, African governments must now uphold transparency, safeguard free speech, and resist any urge to misuse the very independence they fiercely won. Civil society organizations have already begun demanding protections to ensure this new network empowers citizens instead of simply consolidating power in government hands internationally. These political shifts send shockwaves far beyond Africa's borders. Western policymakers, long accustomed to wielding influence via digital channels, suddenly find themselves cut off. Sanctions that previously crippled nations by blocking cloud services or digital payments may lose their effectiveness. Africa's ability to shield itself from such pressures is altering global power dynamics. The continent, often seen as vulnerable, now brandishes a shield forged by its own hands. Ultimately, the civil and political consequences of the Continental Internet Exchange come down to a single word: freedom. Freedom for students to learn unhindered, freedom for entrepreneurs to innovate without barriers, freedom for governments to govern free from foreign interference. For the first time in the digital age, Africa is not merely connected, it is firmly in command. From the vantage point of Washington and Silicon Valley, the launch of this continental internet exchange is a seismic jolt. For 2 decades, the United States assumed its tech giants, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, would remain permanent pillars worldwide. The internet itself was treated as an extension of American influence, a soft power weapon as mighty as Hollywood or the US dollar. Now, that assumption is dissolving inside corporate boardrooms. The anxiety is unmistakable at Google. Losing access to a market of 1,400,000,000 people is not merely a revenue hit. It threatens the company's dominance, its ability to train algorithms on vast data troves, and its image as the indispensable gateway to global information. Africa's digital protocol, built to be incompatible by design, means Google cannot simply assimilate or buy its way back. It would be forced to build a whole parallel network, an endeavor costing hundreds of billions and spanning decades. For the first time in history, Google confronts a rival it cannot simply outspend. Meanwhile, Washington faces an unprecedented conundrum. The U.S. has often leveraged control over digital systems for diplomatic leverage, from cloud service sanctions to internet surveillance. Africa's new network thwarts these tools. If a nation can keep its data within its borders and operate services independently, as a result, the United States finds it far harder to exert influence. This diminishes Washington's geopolitical clout, at a moment when rivalry with China and Russia already stretches American power thin. On the other side of the Atlantic, European capitals share the unease. France and the United Kingdom, each with deep colonial legacies in Africa, sense their cultural and economic sway slipping away. They once dictated African narratives through media and digital platforms. Now, those stories may very well be retold by Africans themselves, pushing European voices to the sidelines. Beyond Western borders, the response takes a starkly different shape. In South America, leaders swiftly expressed eagerness to replicate Africa's blueprint. They too grow tired of footing the bill for services benefiting foreign stakeholders. Meanwhile, in Asia, where regional alliances are already forming, Africa's achievement is viewed as evidence that large-scale autonomy is indeed achievable. What began as a uniquely African initiative now sparks a worldwide debate. Should the globe persist with a single internet dominated by Western tech giants, or should each region chart its own digital destiny? For older American viewers witnessing this transformation, the ramifications run deep. The internet, once heralded as a beacon of freedom and openness, is fracturing into segmented regional realms. Some interpret this shift as a threat to the ideal of a global commons, yet others may see it as a long overdue correction. Nations reclaiming control over their digital futures, just as they do with borders, currencies, and armed forces. Here lies America's most urgent dilemma. Will it cling to the old order or embrace this new reality? Efforts to undermine Africa's digital sovereignty risk provoking backlash, fueling distrust, and pushing the continent closer to alternative alliances like China or Russia. Embracing change, on the other hand, demands humility and acknowledgement that America's innovation monopoly is not everlasting. For the global community, Africa's bold step signals the dawn of a new era. Sovereignty in this 21st century will no longer be measured solely in gold reserves, military might, or territory. It will be gauged by who owns the cables, controls the data, and sets the protocols. In this arena, Africa has taken the lead. The launch of its continental internet exchange is more than just news relevant to the continent. It is a stark warning to the rest of the world. The presumption that Western firms would forever dictate the flow of information, pace of innovation, and terms of access now lies shattered. Africa has demonstrated that with vision, unity, and resolve, even the most entrenched monopolies can be broken. Yet, let us be clear, this saga is far from over. The coming years will test whether Africa can safeguard this hard-won sovereignty against both external pressure and internal corruption. History teaches that when nations take bold strides toward independence, they must confront not only overt opposition but also subtle sabotage. Will Washington attempt to reclaim dominance through diplomatic coercion? Will Silicon Valley mobilize lobbying efforts or covert schemes to unravel Africa's digital protocols? Equally critical is whether African governments wield this newfound power responsibly, protecting freedoms of speech and human rights within their networks. For Americans, especially those who lived through the Cold War and understand how information shaped global power, this moment rings familiar. Once again, the balance of power is shifting not through missiles or tanks, but through fiber optic cables and lines of code. Should Africa prevail, the entire digital order could be reconstructed on the foundation of sovereignty rather than monopoly. This transformation could reshape how each of us connects, learns, and communicates. It's no accident that leaders like Burkina Faso's president, Ibrahim Traoré, champion sovereignty beyond mining or agriculture to technology itself. His message is unwavering. True independence means mastering the very foundations of society, whether that be the minerals beneath the earth or the data pulsing through digital cables. The internet revolution unfolding now embodies this philosophy. So, the question for you is, do you believe President Ibrahim Traoré's vision of sovereignty stretching from natural resources to the digital realm is exactly what Africa needs? Or do you worry that without global oversight, this independence could be twisted by local politics? This debate will not only shape Africa's destiny, but also the future of the internet itself. The era of digital colonialism faces a formidable challenge. The only question remaining is whether it will fade quietly or fall amid fierce resistance. If you feel you are witnessing this historic turning point firsthand, please share this video. And if you believe that truth must triumph over monopolies, subscribe to our channel. The epic tale of Africa's digital future has only just begun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate you guys for being here, sticking it through. It's 3 hours, almost 3.5 hours almost. But I'm here, and we're gonna cover this last little part. You know, about Ilhan. You know, these motherfuckers Somalis, man, they talking about they gonna take it over. Fuck the Constitution, bitch. That's treason. That's a bullet in the head. Fuck you, Ilhan Omar. Take your ass back to Somali, bitch. We don't need you fucking here. Now this one, yeah, well, yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna let it play out. Hold on. I'm gonna turn it back up. Look at what they're saying. If you're hearing that theme, that's from the man video, the very first video that I did. Okay, so that's one. And let's see. Yeah, it's just these Somali motherfuckers. They done lost their damn mind. Hold on. They need to go. Oh, it's just 45 seconds. Hold on, I'm gonna let it play.
So I can be home alone. Ha, you work all fucking day, you don't got shit. Thank you for working so hard so I can be home all day. Free. I can use my EBT. Go to work for me, white boy, white girl. Yeah. Go to work for me, you fucking white animals. Fucking work for me. Yeah, you fucking work for me. And the US government they work for me. All of you work for me. Now go to work. Pay them taxes. Take care of me and my people. Right? This is my land. I control this place. This is my reality. You all gonna be enchained. I'm gonna lock all you guys up if you don't pay your taxes. You better fucking pay your taxes.
Man, fuck that bitch. If the U.S. government came back and said, just kill this one motherfucker, Isaiah, and you good to go, I would do it within a heartbeat. Man, you don't fucking threaten our shit that we done built, that King James, a black man, created and his son and grandson maintained. Are you fucking mad and out of your goddamn mind? Yeah, you are. Oh, this is white folks and bullshit. Hold on. Damn, do I remember where I put this? Boy. Yeah, we know about that. That's the living and truth. Don't mind me. I'm looking for something. Now here, when I was 17, I whispered to two of my black classmates the answer to one of the questions on a very hard exam. First thing they asked me was, "Are you sure?" And then told me they didn't believe me. A couple of minutes later, one of my white classmates told them the answer to another question. First thing they said was, "Thank you, you're great." I knew right then and there that the system would definitely win it. I already read that one. She failed to say pathologically white people have an innate desire to commit crimes. In fact, before 1965, 90% of the prison population was white. Real talk, you guys. Now this one, like I said, France is collapsing. They're in the poorhouse. Orano is what I was trying to remember, the name of the company. Left it in shambles, polluted with nuclear waste or some kind of waste that would take hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, to get rid of. Never forget our ancestors, you guys. We already did that one. I did this one. See, we got to fight, you know what I mean? We got to fight. And there's no doubt about that. Black first always. And this is interesting. 3.3 million year old child Negro. Yeah, that's what my son Aaron did. I'm angry at you, and I'm not talking to you today. and tomorrow, all day. I still love you though. That's some shit. Boy, I tell you, being a parent is not exactly, gonna be rough sometimes. Isn't she lovely? How the fuck would you know? That's kind of funny. All right, and then you got the Black Irish. We did that one. So there's a lot here. I don't think I would be able to find it. I'm going to try to find it. I guess I should have put this first on the list. And, hold on. Yeah, just bear with me, you guys. Oh, now look, this guy, I did not know that Christian Louboutin, the people who make the shoe with the red bottom, it was a black guy. Oh, it's a black guy. Is that a bitch? Now, the one that I'm looking for is what white folks really feel, because this guy put it in words that are so true. Hold on. All right, so if I can't find it within the next minute or so, I'm just going to move on and use it for the next background. All right, so black on black homicides have decreased by 67% in 20 years, a sharper rate of decrease than white on white homicide. So we know that. Boy. But anyway, this guy name is Pane or Peen or something like that. And this is the Cleveland Indians. The real Indians were black, right? We all know that. Boy, let's see. And P. Diddy got his bed warmer there. Boy, he really. Now, I'm just saying. Hold on. I'm going to find it. Please hold on. Please hold on. Don't give up. Yes, yeah. But I'm going to put it more closer to what needs to be said. I can find it a lot easier. The white man's victory soon became complete by fraud, violence, intimidation, and murder. That's it. I'm telling you, you guys, white folks ain't shit. They planning and they're scheming, hoping that you keep falling for the bullshit. When the white man who is always the aggressor knows he runs at great risk of biting the dust every time his Afro-American victim does, he will have greater respect for African-Americans. The lesson this teaches, in which every Afro-American should ponder well, is that the Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give. Ida B. Wells, listen to our ancestors. It's coming up. I know it is. Nigger with gun, we will shoot back. Nigger and the gun, this nonviolent stuff will get you killed. Great book. Let's see. I'm sorry. I should have had this. I should have had this done, but hey. But if you want to follow me at on Twitter or X at Isaiah Israel 15. Love to have you. Okay. Yeah, damn forehead, huh? Damn. But anyway, if I can't find it, I'm just gonna let you know what was said and how it was said to the best of my ability. So, Conan, I didn't know I was this far behind, or it was way, way, way down here. Said white supremacy is about to collapse. The world as you, as a black person in America, understands it to be is about to collapse and change radically. The Chinese are basing their currency on gold. The American dollar is based on nothing. If you had 1,000 cash paper dollars, I had 1,000 gold. I'm good because I can convert my gold and silver into cash equivalent to whatever currency is the reserve currency. That reserve currency, you guys, is going to be the African gold coin. Period. My gold will never lose value. Your cash is just paper. Wake up. Okay, if it don't come up, then I'm just gonna more or less. And this is the real Chinese guy, better known as Lord Moore. And here's the crime statistic. They lead in every fucking category, man. White folk. The number of crimes committed by whites in any category exceeds all other races combined. Do not let the media use percentage, disproportionate, or incidence to portray U.S. crime as a black problem. It's a white problem, and as you can see, all of the world can fit right nicely into Africa. Come on, baby, come on. Where you at? Where you at, G? Where you at, baby? So here we go. So let me put that back. Hold on. Yeah, what the hell am I doing? Well, it's here. Okay, so I'm gonna put that there. So Pene or Sanders, he said, can I ask why you black people are so goddamn passive? We kill your children, mock you, take your riches, take your land, convince you God is white, cause so many problems of self-hate in your community. Keep you poor, take your history, Egypt, take your opportunity and make your children believe the only heroes in the world are white men. And then you continue to give us the benefit of the doubt? We lock you up and you still have us walk around like everything is okay. When will you stop calling on to Jesus and do it for your goddamn selves? Is this how you reacted when we came to conquer you? We didn't conquer shit. This is bloody pathetic. I see no Moors here, no niggas, no African American Moors. All I see are confused monkeys. And he's right. When will you motherfuckers wake the fuck up and fight? So hold on, and then I'm gonna go here and look at my. There was something I know. Hold on, and go to my YouTube channel. Go to WMB of Lies and Deceit. That's what it's called. All right, and here are all of my old videos that I did and detailing what's going on in Africa. I mean, it's just abundantly clear as to what is going on. And check that out. Subscribe. Hit the bell button, all the bell icons, so you can get all the latest video that I'm gonna be doing in the future, so you can watch them. I really appreciate you guys. But I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm gonna appreciate you guys being here, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, a like, or do something, man. Cause y'all ain't responding. What the hell is going on, Willie? What the fuck? Nobody ain't responding, and nobody ain't leaving no messages. You like the show, you don't like the show, kiss my ass, something. Say something. God damn. But anyway, like I always say, this whole thing is about to break wide the fuck open. White folks are done. They broke, busted, and disgusted. They don't have anything. The new world order is black. Period. It's not gonna go no motherfucking where. We're taking it over all over because it belonged to us any motherfucking way. Black folk were everywhere on this goddamn planet because we were the only ones on it. The reason why there's so much of a disparity between colors is because of these albino ass motherfuckers who got too full of themselves and started having babies with people of color. They have a very serious self-esteem problem. Because they know they ain't shit. They come from shit. They're flies that like to eat shit, and we like to eat honey. And it don't make no motherfucking sense for a bee to talk to a fly. You just don't. We done talking. We're gonna pull out our 9 millimeters and shoot you in the motherfucking head. Because this is what you deserve. You still acting a fool. You still acting a fool. White boy, white girl. You're still killing. And ain't no coming back from that. There really isn't. You reap what you sow. The sins of the father and mother are visited upon their children, and all this hate that you spewed upon the world is at your doorstep. The chickens have come home to roost, and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing. Maybe you might want to convert to Islam. That might be the saving grace, bitches. But I don't see nothing. Not even that. Your calling card, your pale ass skin, is your death mark. Period. All the glory that you celebrated for the last 200 years or so belong to black people. You have lied, you have schemed, you have connived your way to the top. It never lasts. It just doesn't. Your mind will never know a day's rest, and your heart shall run with fear. When you see a black man, a black woman, a black boy, black girl, black child, hold your fucking head down. This is the new age of black power, black superiority, black supremacy. And we ain't gonna stop. It's over for you motherfuckers. Over. You thought you were going to win the race. You went to sleep, bitches. Instead of staying on that road and running your ass up to the finish line, you went to sleep. Now the turtle has finished the race. And that turtle is black folk. And we're not giving it back. So fuck all white folks. You know what I mean? That's what I wanted to see. Hold on. Let me see if I can find that, because I know damn well I saved it, but hold on. I know damn well I saved it. Okay. It was about a sister from Africa that was really putting it down. Lady, yeah, okay, white people are cursed. I'll never love these people. This is it. This is sickening. Okay, so let me pull that up. Yeah, so she's telling the truth. Oh, here it is. Plot to kill blacks with HIV exposed. This is December the 14th to the 21st, 2025. You see how this shit is? See how these motherfuckers are? They ain't, fuck all white folks, man. I don't give a fuck how nice they are, how polite, man. Fuck them all. Because you can't trust them. You damn near can't trust your own. Like Tinubu and like the president of Cote d'Ivoire. However you fucking say. I'm not French. I don't speak French. But the same shit. We got more to worry about amongst us than the obvious enemy outside of us. Can you believe that? December the 14th, this is the 16th, so 2 days ago. December the 14th through the 21st, 2025. Motherfucker, this ain't laid out 100 years ago. Plot to kill blacks with HIV. They just tried to do that shit with the vaccine. And it was a white boy who was talking about how white folks better get prepared because shit is about to hit the fan for all they did to black people. The God of black people is on that ass. You know what I mean? So, fuck it. And this is not true either. We don't kill each other. We don't kill each other like that. Let's see. This is just some leftover bullshit. But anyway, we're going to wrap it up. And I really appreciate you guys for being here. And please leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show, how you like the show. Spread the word about it. Subscribe. Hit the bell icon. And I really appreciate you guys for being here. And until for the next 24/7, 365, stay black. Peace out. Love you guys.